Oh shit. Back by popular demand. It's been a while. Dan, it's the return of the Mystic Man, bro. Are you fucking pumped?
I'm just glad Connor got his horn raised.
I'm glad too, man. We definitely need to talk about that. It's been a fucking long time, man. I don't remember the last time we actually did our debut show, but we got some good feedback on it.
Yeah.
People seem to enjoy it a little bit. I even caught a few boxing fans here and there that actually enjoyed a little bit of an introduction to a different sport. So a lot has happened, man, since we did our last show.
I mean, we did our last show after 196, right? So after Diaz McGregor won, and a shitload has happened. I mean, it's not like this was a immediate rematch. I mean, obviously it was, but obviously with Conor pulling out of 200, that was a huge debacle. So there's just so much shit to discuss. But let's go straight into the rematch.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, just to tell a little bit of my personal story with with this fight. I was actually on a holiday in Thailand on some island, and I had breakfast at like 10 o'clock in the morning in an Australian pub, and they were airing the fight. And most people there were just like pretty hungover, kind of excited, but pretty mellow. And I was just sitting there fucking yelling over my scrambled eggs, fucking going crazy because Conor was actually implementing for sure. And Conor was actually implementing a game plan, that I was hoping so bad that he would do that, and he fucking did it, man. But why don't you give your take on the fight, man? Go ahead. I mean, tell me about your expectations. You were obviously there as well, so that was a whole different fucking experience, right?
It certainly was.
Do you remember anything? Let me ask you that.
I do, because I was on the right kind of drug for that fight. I was first. Let's just give out a collective shout out to our boy Abe, right? The Don. So me and Abe, I convinced Abe to go to a UFC fight. It was his first UFC fight ever. And what an occasion, right? What a spectacle for that to be your first UFC fight. I mean, it was funny. Let's just start with the build up to the fight, if we could. I mean, because I got to Vegas on Friday night, but I was hearing rumblings, I think starting from Tuesday, that the fight wasn't generating that much publicity. Certainly in comparison to UFC 196, and people were projecting this to, I think, hit around 1.2 to 1.3 million pay-per-view buys. And if you were there in Vegas, the atmosphere wasn't that lively. And I think people just got tired. I mean, the fact that it was so close to 200, the fact that it's a much larger arena, which T-Mobile is compared to the previous MGM Grand. And also, I just think Conor has been very, very quiet this training camp. And that's something that I'm really surprised with, is that the UFC has allowed him to do such little publicity. And he's been just kind of locked himself in a cave, so to speak, training. He spent $300,000 on this training camp, according to sources. He flew out his entire team out to Vegas. He created his own training camp in some warehouse in the middle of Vegas. He got his own mansion, and he's housing like 11 dudes. So he's paying all of that shit on his own payroll. And there just wasn't that much publicity. But then obviously you had the water bottle throwing incident with Team Diaz and Team McGregor on Thursday. And it just seems like shit hit the fan after that. And, we discussed it earlier this week. This fight did 1.65 million pay-per-view buys. And it just shows you that this motherfucker is not just the face of all combat sports, but I think he's one of the most popular athletes in America, which is pretty fascinating at the age of 26. So this guy's running the fucking business, It's pretty astounding. And obviously with the UFC being sold for $4 odd billion, I feel like Conor really anchored that shit. He's really doing something. I really do. And I was very skeptical about that, because before this, I always thought, the UFC has done such a great job in already creating an organization that's consistent. There's other superstars like Ronda Rousey and John Jones, et cetera, et cetera. But there's no one as consistent as Conor. And unlike Ronda, I feel like he brings an air of legitimacy in the sport that Ronda doesn't, just because of the fact that her competition isn't anywhere near as high or elite as Conor. So this motherfucker he's running shit. It's just really, really fun to watch. And just leading back to, again, the fight, just in the build up towards Saturday night, it just seems like everything just happened perfectly. And the atmosphere was fucking insane in there. And yeah, I mean, Conor obviously pulled out a spectacular fight, but yeah, I want to ask you, what your analysis was of the fight, and just kind of how you saw the rounds as they progressed, and any kind of concerns or doubts you had with Conor, obviously as he encountered some of the tougher rounds in the third and fourth round specifically.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I think what you described also, just about the build up to the fight quickly. I think also, you've got these Irish fans traveling to Vegas, for every fight, and there comes a point when that starts diminishing a little bit. I think when Conor was coming on, people were spending a shitload of money just to get over there, flying all the way from Ireland. But I mean, people's wallets are going to end up going empty at one point. Like, you can't keep doing that. So I think also that had a little bit of an effect. And like you said, Conor was going to have it his way. The whole fucking debacle that happened with 200. He didn't want to do too much media. He just wanted to focus on training camp, and he was going to continue doing that, despite even getting pulled off the card. And I'm pretty sure that the UFC at one point was just like, what, fuck it. Let him just do his thing, and, we'll see what happens. And in typical Conor fashion, it takes one little fucking moment, like a press conference, where the whole hype just gets, reignited. And
yeah.
I mean,
or a tweet.
We were both nervous for the rematch, right? But the hype, was at a decent level. It wasn't like, like I was going crazy about it. But on fight week, oh man, I freaking lost it. I was so nervous, even though I was on a freaking holiday. But yeah. Just to get back to the fight, right? You asked me what did I think about it round by round.
Yeah,
I thought it was a pretty clear fight to score from that perspective. If you want to talk about scoring the fight and who won, I watched it now, I think 3-4 times. The first time, obviously, I was so nervous, but I could still clearly score these rounds. I think 1 to 2 were clear McGregor rounds. McGregor, the first round, I was just so ecstatic to see him use the leg kicks. I mean, I've said it a billion fucking times. This is how you attack Nate Diaz. He's so heavy on that front leg. You just got to kick the shit out of it. And even if you're not a typical like Muay Thai style striker, you can still get benefits from it. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, you can definitely tell his leg kicks were a little bit awkward.
Yeah. He doesn't have that
Jose Aldo type of level.
Jose Aldo style, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And one more thing before you're finished with that process, I think not only the leg kicks, but just his reservations, especially in that first round when he obviously got Nate to the floor. You could just tell that this was a different level of striking that he employed compared to the first fight.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, and this applies not only to MMA but also to boxing, right? If you telegraph all your punches and you just blatantly headhunt, it's pretty obvious to your opponent, and at one point it's going to backfire unless you knock the guy out. But here you could see he was still displaying his superior striker and using that left hand to target the head, but he was mixing it up, right? He was using the leg kicks. I saw some nice body shots in there, and even towards the end of the fight you saw some vicious elbows as well. But the first couple of rounds were just perfect. And yeah, like you said, the leg kicks were a little bit awkward, but they were doing their job. At one point you could see Diaz's leg was just battered. I mean, I don't understand with Diaz, like he's encountered this so many times and he still hasn't learned to check a fucking leg kick properly. I mean, I that is one thing I just don't get, but fuck it, if you're Conor and you know this about your opponent, you're going to go for that. And when he dropped him as well, I mean, he just looked perfect. But then the turnaround happened, right? And yeah. I want to, again, go back to you. What were your thoughts when you started visibly seeing him gassing out? Because I flipped the fuck out.
Yeah. I thought it was going to end in the third round. There wasn't a single doubt in my mind that the fight was going to end. And I think McCarthy, if he was a little bit quick on the trigger, could have stopped that fight, because at the end of the last 40 seconds of that round, he wasn't answering any of Nick Diaz's blows. So I'm glad that obviously Big John McCarthy didn't do that, but at the same time, and just the punishment that he took in that third round was exactly what you saw in the first couple of minutes of that second round in that previous fight. So, credit to Conor for obviously having the balls and just the resolve to get through that. But it was definitely concerning, and I don't even recollect what caused it. Do you? Do you know what caused him for the tide to turn in the way that it did?
I don't know. For me, he seemed very poised. He wasn't putting too much into his punches, and getting the 2 knockdowns as well. He was still very calm. He wasn't rushing into the guard to follow up and try to finish him.
Yeah.
He was very mellow. He let him up, a couple of times, and he just kept on doing his thing. And then somewhere, I think around the 4th minute, of the second round, you could just see visibly that his legs were starting to weaken a little bit. Like he just doesn't have that explosiveness anymore. And I think Conor, even though he can improve his cardio, and he says that himself, I'm a blue belt in cardio. I still have a lot to improve about it. The way I train, but I think he's just one of these fast twitch muscle type of fighters, that he's just always going to be dangerous for 2 rounds. But the way he fights just requires it's just always explosive movements, if you know what I mean. Like, and I think that just naturally always gasses the guy out. I mean, I don't know if that's yeah, exactly. And I don't know if that's ever really going to improve by that much.
Yeah.
And Diaz hadn't done shit at that point, right? I mean, honestly, by the time he was slowing down,
what might have caused
it.
You know what though? I think Diaz clipped him with a 1-2. I do remember that. I think somewhere in the second round, it was obviously all Conor, and then when they were in mid range, I think Nate clipped him with a 1-2 straight down the pipe, and that's when his legs kind of wobbled. But just regarding his cardio, it's substantially improved because the mere fact that he was able to recover and win the fight, that speaks volumes about not just his toughness, but his cardio. But I don't know, man. I just think there's so much about this fight that we don't know. It's so difficult to draw away too much just because of where the fight took place in terms of weight. I mean, obviously 170 isn't ideal for Conor. And this may sound a little bit crazy, but I think the fact that he was so lean, and if you just look at his body, from his fights at 145 to his 2 previous contests at 170, it's just night and fucking day. He's so fucking lean, and he looks so good at 45. And I do wonder if that added bulk had a factor, because I do think that if you're such a fast twitch muscle like Conor is, any kind of addage in weight, even if it's 5 pounds, I think plays a substantial part. Whereas Nate obviously is just this lean muscled, just fucking freak athlete. I mean, Nate, for those of you who follow his career, he does fucking triathlons on his spare time. So that's why he has such great cardio and endurance and stamina, and what he displayed in that first fight. He had 10 days to train, and he was still able to go 5 rounds, it seemed like. So I think you're absolutely right. I just think Conor's body and the way that his muscle fibers are constructed in his body, it just doesn't lend himself to be a sustained 5-round athlete. And I do think that's a little bit concerning for some of the other matchups that he can potentially face at 155. But I think if I could just take a second to talk about Nate, man, because we obviously both love Conor, but I think we both love Nate just as much. I mean, maybe a little bit less, but this guy's a fucking G, man. I'm just so happy for Nate. I'm so happy for the monies that he's making. I mean, he won season 4 of Ultimate Fighter. He was making 20 and 20 for each of his fights, and now he made a guaranteed $2 million purse and whatever pay-per-view revenue that he gets. So I'm happy for the Diaz bros. Just Nate's a badass motherfucker, man. And I know Conor won the fight 3-2, clearly, in my opinion, and in yours. But and this may be a little bit irrelevant, but if we use like the scenario of, if we saw these 2 guys fight in an elementary school, in the backyard, at the end of the day, who would you point to as a badder motherfucker? Like, who would you point as the guy that you're scared of? And for me, it was Nate. I mean, just the guy's a fucking badass, dude. The way that he's flipping off Conor during rounds, telling him to fuck off. And you mentioned this to me as well. It was stated on Errol Hawani's MMA Hour podcast that during one of the sequences in that fight, when Nate had Conor to the cage, he was telling Coach Cavanaugh, fuck you and your game plan, while he's punching McGregor in the fucking face. Just think how fucking badass that is. Dude, Cavanaugh's like, Conor, stay within your plan. And Nate's like, fuck you and your game plan, motherfucker. And he's just battering him in the fucking face, dude. Nate's a fucking badass. And these two guys are just laid it all down the line. And honestly, I can't wait till that third matchup because, you know, this is, I think, one of the best fights that I've ever seen in person, whether it's boxing or MMA.
I mean, Nate is a bad motherfucker. There's no denying that. But I think this whole saga with McGregor has made us forget a little bit how flawed of a fighter he is. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Nate's always been the type of guy that did well and was entertaining, but he was never championship material, whereas Conor is. And to be honest, just when you talk about the fight and you said that he hurt Conor at one point or battering him, like I felt that during the fight when I watched it for the first time, but that for me when I watched it back again, that was just a lot of anxiety based on the first fight. You know, like I as soon as Conor started to slow down, I pictured the same ending, you know, but I was kind of just forgetting to obviously do something that's impossible, and that's objectively look at the fight and realize what the fuck is going on. Because I read a lot of bullshit on the internet. For example, that Nate won the second round, and if you watch that round, there is no fucking way that you can score that for Nate. All he did was slap him around a little bit at the end of the round in the last minute, and that didn't even like hit clean or whatever. And where he got dropped twice himself. Like how the fuck can you score that round for Nate Diaz? You know, and I think because of the first fight, Nate's performance in the second fight gets exaggerated a little bit. Yes, Conor was in trouble. I'm not going to deny that. But even in the third round, you know, if I hadn't watched the first fight, I wouldn't be in a state of mind where I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to get stopped. And I'm being serious. I'm not being like biased towards Conor. If I hadn't watched the first fight, I know it's a bit of an impossible statement, but I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. Like if I didn't have that anxiety and I'm just watching a regular UFC fight, I've seen fighters in way worse fucking trouble than Conor in the third. Way worse. I've seen fighters on the ground getting fucking battered. You know, I'm talking like Rockhold Chris Weidman taking 20 consecutive elbows to the face. And then it gets stopped. You know, like Conor wasn't in that much trouble if you compare it to other fights. It's just that the whole magnitude of the fight made everybody go crazy and thinking that, you know, this is going to end in the same way and we're going to see some high fucking drama. But it wasn't that. I honest to God, I don't think it was that. And I think that was also part of Conor, you know, just being a lot more calm and just, you know, dealing with that pressure, knowing how to catch a second win and then continuing to fight. And the fourth round, he was pretty decent again. I don't think he was fresh, you know, but he was able to put some pop behind his punches again and just finish the fight in a decent way. So I'm a little bit more, you know, on the other side. I do think Conor's performance gets a little undermined by some people, but yeah, like you said, man, what a fucking fantastic fight. I mean, I'm jealous that you were there, man. Were there a lot of Irish people in the crowd?
No, which was probably very, I don't know if it's surprising because like you mentioned, I mean, they only have a certain amount of capital to play with in a given year. So I wasn't too surprised by that, but I just did want to mention one thing. The King is always fresh, yeah. Always fresh. The King, that immaculate three-piece suit, that thing is tailor-made to perfection, yeah. Always.
Oh, man, it is.
Yeah,
we need to give him some credit, Lim, man, because who the fuck in the fight game does what he does? Huh?
Nobody.
I mean, taking that rematch. Yo, dude, nothing.
He's the Don, yeah. Now that Uncle Dana or Uncle Lorenzo and Uncle Frank is gone from the business, I think he's the second uncle in that business, yeah. Him and Uncle Dana. Those are the two pillars of the fight game, yeah.
Yeah, let's do a quick interlude, man, because Kid Gallabum has a question.
Kid Gallabum. Get the fuck out of here, Kid Gallabum. Go support your bum-ass fighter, Kid Galahad. That guy's fighting this weekend, right? Kid Galahad? Anyways, no, I'm just fucking around. What's his question?
Yeah, I've seen that Roy Juicer around again. He's asking, how do you score this UFC shit? Is a knockdown or a takedown worth a point?
Yeah.
Explain, you fanboy.
That's a very difficult question.
There is no answer to this
Jesus.
question.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's further
there is no
marred by
answer.
the fact that, okay, in UFC or in MMA, there's like four, I'd say, main, potentially even five disciplines that you have to take into factor, right? Whereas in boxing, it's just one. So it's so much more clear in terms of the way that you assess how someone has performed in a given round. And that's an excellent question, because I think that is the biggest difficulty in judging a fight correctly in these UFC fights, is that there's so many different definitions in how you judge a fight. But I think if we can just look into this fight in particular, I think the knockdowns are the most visible form of domination, obviously outside of some kind of choke that causes a contest to be stopped altogether. But I do think a knockdown has to be prioritized in how you judge a round. And just by the fact that Conor had 2 knockdowns in that second round, I think was enough to clearly establish that round for him. So I don't know, man. What's your take on this question? Is there any other kind of insight you could possibly draw from that can satisfactorily answer this question?
Well, Kid Galabum, you need to think about this, right? You're a boxing fan first, as far as I know. And how many fucking times do you argue with people like a retard about, that a boxing fight was a robbery, when, like you said, there's only one discipline to judge? Well, you can imagine what happens when there's like 5 or 6 that is using a boxing-based scoring system. There are no clear rules. I mean, you've got vague statements that judges judges use, such as octagon control. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? Nobody knows what that means. But a lot of times, and lately it's been less, but in the past, especially when you're talking more, around when the UFC really started blowing up, is that wrestling always weighed very heavy in the scoring. So when one guy's on top and the other guy's on the bottom, 100% of the time, the round's always going to go to the guy on top. That was always kind of an issue, and I don't think they did anything specifically to fix that, because often you would have, like, these American wrestlers just get on top of a guy and not do shit for 3 or 5 rounds and then win the fight, when that fight didn't really take place. It was just one guy humping the other. And that would be, both from an entertainment perspective, horrible, but it's also a really bad way to score a fight. You're just manipulating the system. And lately, I do feel like things have changed a little bit. I mean, guys do get some more credit if they start attacking from the bottom. For example, if they use elbows. Like I said, there is no clear system how to score a fight. Me personally, I score it pretty similar. Well, the concept is pretty similar to a boxing match, and that's you score by clear, effective strikes in this case, not just punching, and also damage. Like, damage is a big fucking thing for me in MMA. If you slice a guy open with an elbow and he's bleeding all over the fucking place, that's gonna score big for me. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fucking fight, and just wrestling a guy to the ground isn't necessarily going to win the round for me. But let's just wrap up the Conor talk, man. Is there anything you want to still add about that fight? You want to talk about Conor's next fight, for example?
Yeah, I could just talk about Conor all day if you want. His Instagram feed, what D Devlin is up to, the Mac life.
Oh, the Mac life is great, man. What a production!
You know what? I do like it, but I don't like the music. They play the same fucking corny ass, like, hip hop, fucking, I don't know, just some watered down, out of Questlove type of bullshit. But yeah, I mean, I think Conor is, I mean, he's the biggest star in the UFC. He's the biggest star, I think, in UFC history. And I think without him, I mean, I don't know if that acquisition by WME takes place. I mean, I'm sure it does, but I think he played such a large role in their evaluation of the sport, because I do think Conor is a once-in-a-lifetime superstar, and it is fascinating to see where his career is going to progress from here on out. Because I think if he was a boxer, like, he'd be famous enough and he could generate enough money on his own where he could just cherry pick fights. He could have 3 easy fights in a year and then have a tough one and just do that over and over and over again. But just the way that the UFC is established, it clearly makes fighters fight the best opposition possible. If not the best opposition, the fights that the fans clearly want to see. And those two things usually align with one another. So that's usually not an issue. But just in regards to who I think he fights next, I have a feeling that he's going to fight in November. I do have a feeling that he's going to fight in 2 months and I think a week. And I think he's going to fight Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205 for that 155-pound title. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but from what I've heard, Conor didn't sustain any kind of real injury on his foot that he was limping on after the Diaz fight, and he seems to be okay. And like you mentioned, I think in your assessment of that 3rd round, I don't think Conor took too much head damage. I think he looked gassed, but I don't think he suffered any kind of concussion in that fight. So I think from what I've heard, he's medically cleared to fight. And just knowing the kind of guy that he is, I think he's going to go straight into the fucking fire and challenge Eddie Alvarez for that strap.
That would just be a crazy move, to be honest. Yeah. But I again, given
and the UFC needs it.
Well,
I think so. I think for what they're trying to accomplish with New York, I mean, you need someone of his magnitude. And I think with UFC 200, they just happened to luck out with Brock Lesnar taking over that star role. But obviously Lesnar isn't available. So who else do you really have that can really make 205 the event that it is?
Well, they had one guy, but he decided to fail a drug test and he's gone again. But
yeah, but even then, man, I don't know if that breaks 1 million. Well, maybe it does 1 million, but like you mentioned, I mean, you just took him out of the equation altogether. So,
I mean, I see your point, but I don't know about needing it. But it would certainly blow the entire thing up, right? I mean, we'd get a bunch of crazy Irish people coming out to New York. I mean, Conor would hype that shit in overdrive. So, I mean, why not? I do hope they do it, but I certainly hope that he's not forcing himself to take that fight. I want him to be in good shape because Alvarez is no joke, and he needs to bring his fucking A game to beat that guy at the moment. But I think we got KH on the line, man. You there?
Yeah, I figured why not?
Why not? Are you,
How's it going,
you called in? You trying to dare to be great? Like Kell Brook?
Of course.
Like Conor?
Why not? Take the steps.
It's A1 versus A2.
That's it.
1A.
The pound,
a
pound for pound #1 welterweight in the world.
Yeah. Weight,
I don't know. That's like an oxymoron. A pound for pound welterweight. What?
Weight is not an issue. He's not fighting Goliath.
They're gonna go back to like MMA, like UFC 1, 2, and 3, like guys 400 pounds fighting 150 pounders.
Yeah, bro. So what do you think about the Don?
One. You said like you think he's the biggest star in the history of the sport. I saw the reports of the pay-per-view selling like 1.65 million, so I think it's pretty much indisputable that he is the biggest, not only the biggest star in MMA history right now, he's by far the biggest star in combat sports.
Yes.
So, I mean,
it's not even close.
Whether you like him, whether you hate him, whether you hate the sport, whether you like the sport, I mean, the guy's doing huge numbers. I think Canelo's live gate versus Khan might have been bigger, but I mean, your boy almost tripled him in pay-per-view sales. So, I mean, it is what it is. The guys, and I thought he won the fight pretty clearly. Like, I think UFC, they score fights kind of like bullshit sometimes, right? Like, I know you mentioned like the wrestling, you shouldn't get credit, but a lot of times, like if you just control the guy, even if you're not doing any damage, you win like a round, and it's kind of annoying. So I remember one time I lost money on my Long Island guy, my boy Sarah, when he lost to Matt Hughes, and the whole third round, like Matt Hughes took down Sarah like 3 times in the last round, but Sarah like almost got him in 2 different submissions, and he was working from the bottom. So I was like, so basically this guy won because he was on top, even though he didn't land a punch or do anything. And that's when I kind of stopped watching the sport for a while, like because it was that and like Rashard Evans just like pushing people up against the fence for 3 rounds and winning. So it was like tough. But I think now people are getting so much better that you're seeing more transitions. It's not just wrestling dominated. So there's more transitions from striking and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. People were like complaining, saying Diaz won. I didn't see that at all. I mean, I know Diaz won that one clean round, but other than that, like I gave McGregor the first, the second, and the fifth, and the fourth was like a toss up, right?
Yeah, for me it was more the fifth could be a toss up. I thought the fourth was definitely a clear Conor round. So, yeah. Regardless, you're how you score those last two rounds, it's still a 3-2 fight, at the minimum. So,
yeah. So I was surprised that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was surprised that there was a whole lot of debate afterwards. I guess it's because he's a polarizing figure. I mean, I was waiting to see if there's any MMA fans that watched the fight in slow motion 4 times in reverse, and they realized they scored it wrong. But
KH, I think it's a lot of Diaz money as well. I think a lot of people put fucking money on Diaz.
Yeah, and that was the smart money, right? Because it was like 100 to win 400 or something like that. So
I think people made a lot
and I
of
just
big
think
bets.
it's like you mentioned, Conor's a polarizing character, and it's just a lot of casual fans that I think they latch on to small glimpses of the fight, like Conor turning his back on Nate giving him the middle finger, the dominant exchange that Nate had on the cage. And I just think at the end of the fight, I mentioned this earlier to Kimo, I just think Nate Diaz is such a badass motherfucker that you just look at him and be like, dude, this guy, like if they fought 10 times, I would probably favor Nate Diaz more times than I would Conor. And I think I still would.
And it was a bad visual with Conor walking away because he was gassing. Like, that was a bad visual, and that always leaves a lasting impression. But, like, the first 2 rounds especially, every time Diaz threw that, like, lazy jab out, Conor just put the left hand on top of it and was hurting him. I think Conor was a little more selective, and he still gassed out. So I think that weight's just too much for him, carrying around that extra weight, so... Especially when he's going to hit a guy that clean and he's used to putting him out, and now he's like reluctant to go for the finish because he doesn't know if he can get him out. So, like, I'm interested to see. It's going to be Alvarez next. That's what you're thinking?
I think so.
Right. I guess his plan is he wants to belt at 55 and fight Diaz again at 55. Though this way he pulls Diaz down and he feels a little bit stronger and better.
You know what? But I think Diaz is better at 55.
Yeah, I mean, I feel he would probably be a little more explosive and less plotting, right? He'd be more likely to go for a takedown or to pull guard or something like that at 55. So, but I don't know too much technically.
Conor, I don't think he's going to be better against Conor at 155, man. I really don't think so. I think that extra size at 170 helps him a little bit just to absorb punishment. But at the end of the day, I think Conor beats him in a better way at 155.
Because he was absorbing a lot of punishment.
I understand that, but like you mentioned, KH, I think Diaz would be a little bit better and lighter on his feet as well. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for certain either way, but I do think the Nate Diaz that fought against Michael Johnson before that first Conor fight, that was probably the best that I saw him in a long time, physically speaking, and I thought Nate was fantastic in that fight. So, I don't know. I still think if you play this back 10 times, it's probably going to go 5-5. I mean,
it's going to be
2 guys are just very evenly matched. Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I feel like Conor should take this fight if he can is that I think stylistically this is his best chance to get a belt at 155 because 155 is a murderer's row in the UFC. And I feel like stylistically Eddie matches the best with Conor just because I feel like Conor has such a clear advantage on the feet. Eddie has shown to have a shaky chin in the past, especially in his days in Bellator. And Conor really, all he has to worry about is a takedown, which obviously Eddie is fantastic at. So,
is Alvarez like really liked because or like a hipster, maybe an MMA hipster crowd? Because like I don't know if it's the Sonnen podcast or listening to Joe Rogan's podcast. He seems to be like really. Everybody said, like, I don't know, maybe it's just, like I said, because people hate Conor, that they're picking Alvarez, like, oh, he don't want those Alvarez problems, or, it seems like that's pretty much universal what they're saying, so I don't know if he's just, like, a hipster favorite or just a really nice guy that everybody likes, or what.
He's a really nice guy, KH. I mean,
he is, but he's was talking a bit of a so much shit, dude.
Is he? Yeah, he is a little bit. I mean, I've noticed that, too, but at the end of the day,
like a cunt.
But that might be like Guerrero, who was a nice guy that talked so much shit to try to get that payday type of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
hold on. One more thing. Hey,
Yeah.
before we move on, let's not bring up any bum-ass boxers in this podcast.
So, I got
Guerrero,
you.
KH, you're my boy, but X him, all right, bro?
Yeah.
No, none of these bums. No more Angulos. Don't bring up any of these guys in the midst of
Nothing.
because we're in the presence of greatness right now. All right,
That's it.
So, all right, my bad, Kimo. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say like a lot of people like Alvarez, because of his background story, and he, it took him a while to get to the UFC. He had a bunch of problems with Bellator regarding regarding his contract and all that. The guy is called the Underground King, like he has a shitload of fights, and it took him such a long time to get to the UFC. People always wanted him in the UFC, and then he was there, and he kind of disappointed a little bit. He had a few, mediocre performances, and then he finally won the belt in like this emphatic fashion. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like Lim said, stylistically, he's a good wrestler, but he's not a great wrestler. He can become a wrestler, but that's not the way he fights primarily. Like if you look at most of his career, he's just kind of a guy that does everything okay, but he tends to get into wars. He tends to get dragged into fights, like real fights. If you look at his fights with Michael Chandler in Bellator, for example, they're just these fucking rock'em sock'em type of wars. And obviously we haven't seen Conor at lightweight yet, but I have a feeling that he's going to look pretty fucking good. And I think the power is going to still be there. I mean, he still had power at 170, like when he dropped Nate a couple of times. I think he's going to look really good. He's not going to have to cut so much goddamn weight like he used to. I mean, he used to look like Skeletor coming off the scales. I don't know. I think it's a great fight. I can't necessarily, put one guy as the favorite, but anybody that thinks that Alvarez is going to walk through Conor is just out of their fucking mind, dude. I mean, this guy's been dropped many, many fucking times. And say what you want about Conor, I think he's one of the best strikers right now in MMA, and he can certainly knock him out. Definitely, I think. Wouldn't you agree, Lim?
I do. I feel like Eddie definitely presents a lot of opportunities. He's very sloppy when he comes forward, even against RDA. I mean, I was at that fight, and he was just moving with his chin straight up in the fucking air with both of his hands pretty much to his sides. And it's kind of like with Jose Aldo, the way that Conor sparked him out clean. I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Conor just to clip him. And, yeah, man, I don't know, dude. I really feel like, yeah, I'd pick Conor in that fight, and I'll take him as not a clear favorite, but I'm very confident in that pick. And I feel like it's a much, much better fight than RDA, because to me, RDA, even though he lost against Eddie, to me, he's a bad, bad man. And I don't feel like Conor matches up too well against Dos Anjos. Yeah, but that 155 division is just a murderer's row. I mean, if we look at him, if we look at Khabib, I know you don't like Khabib, but I think Khabib is the best fighter in that division still. The way that he ragdolled RDA, I don't care if it was 3 years ago, but just the way that he fucking mauled him, to me, that's still.
Is that Ferguson in that division?
He is.
Tony?
Ferguson, to me, is he's kind of just outside the top 5, in my opinion. But fucking Conor versus Tony might be the best fight, though. Just from an
he's a solid guy. He's a fun guy too.
He is, but he's also very sloppy as well. In his last fight, he fought against some dude who fights at 145, I think on like 2 weeks' notice, and he almost got knocked out. So, but it's MMA, it's a UFC. I mean, you really can't judge these guys based on one performance because it's a crazy ass game.
For sure, man. For sure.
It's a different
speaking
sport.
of RDA. Yeah, let's run down some other events that we haven't talked about in the last couple of months, man, because there's a lot of shit that we haven't talked about. One quickly about the same event, Rumble Johnson against Glover Teixeira, man. What did you think of it? Because Rumble just keeps knocking guys the fuck out, dude.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to be said. I mean, the fight lasted, 14 seconds? So the 205 division is in a very strange place right now with Jones being suspended, but it seems like it's going to get uplifted from USADA. I guess he took some kind of, I don't know, some estrogen boosters or whatever, some kind of sex pill. That's what his defense is. So from what I hear, he's going to be able to fight pretty soon. So I don't know what you do, man. I really don't, because all of those options at 205 seem to have been exhausted, and it's such a top-heavy division. I mean, if you keep recycling these guys against one another, I don't know how long you can maintain interest in the fight fans. So if it was me, I would do Rumble versus Cormier, even though that's probably not a popular decision. I know a lot of people want Rumble versus Jones, and DC just to wait it out, but that's not fair to DC. So I think if it was up to me, I would have Rumble fight Cormier and then have Jones fight Gustafsson for the rematch, and just winner gets winner.
Yeah, it's interesting, the situation about John Jones. I don't know how that's going to play out, but the thought of Rumble against Jones, that gets me very excited, man. I would probably pick Jones by like second round submission. I think he would probably be able to just, calm the storm and submit his ass after some good ground and pound, taking him down. But it just, to me, it's just an exciting fight. Johnson against DC, the rematch, it's okay, like the first fight wasn't bad, but it just wasn't very memorable.
And you see DC grinding him out, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather see Anthony Johnson in a fun fight as opposed to a Cormier fight.
Yeah, but it's just not fair to Rumble at this point,
Yeah,
and that's what the UFC is known for. Exactly, the UFC is known for being fair, and allowing the best to fight the best. So that's kind of their status quo. But
the thing is, though, Cormier is not getting any younger, guys. I mean, what is he now? 38, 37?
Yeah, he's 37, turning 38. So
I mean. Yeah. He has one of the best chins in fucking MMA, but I don't know how long that's gonna hold up. You get in a rematch with Rumble at this point. I don't know. Again, he's gonna get caught because he got caught in the first fight, but he just took it, and he was definitely hurt, but he just survived it, and then just went back to his wrestling and grinded him out. But there's always a chance you can get stopped by Rumble, man. The guy's a fucking monster.
Yeah,
what about Cerrone at 170, man?
Oh, it's great. I mean, Cerrone is fighting fucking Robbie Lawler, so what else needs to be said?
Is that confirmed? Because I haven't seen that confirmed, by the way.
That's confirmed, yeah. Yeah, it's been confirmed for a couple of days now.
What a fucking fight.
Yeah, I'm picking Robbie. I think Robbie is way too much for Cowboy. I know Cowboy's had a good run at 170, but I still don't think he's... I don't think he's at that elite level. Not at 170. That's for damn sure. Cowboy is one of those guys that you just have to pat him on the back because he's so damn consistent. He's a fucking workhorse, but it's just he obviously falls short when the fights really do matter, and I think a large part of that is just his nerves.
Same thing. He's like the hard luck guy.
Yeah, and I don't think it's because he doesn't have the skills to win the fights. I just think it's partially again his nerves and his I guess his mindset, and additionally just the fact that he doesn't really take care of his body all that well, even though he fights all the fucking time. I mean, the fact that he drinks so much goddamn Budweiser. I mean, he said it and he said it multiple times. He's admitted it that his gut is his weak point, so that's why he gets dropped to the body all the time. So I don't know, man. I love Cowboy. This is a fucking amazing fucking fight. I can't wait for this shit. Robbie's probably my second favorite fighter in the UFC. When he lost to Tyrone, I was devastated, but there's just nobody like that guy, man. Like, there's no better nickname in the entire sport than Ruthless, because he's a fucking savage. He is fucking insane, dude. And if Conor had ever fought Robbie, Conor would have gotten murdered. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, and to
Robbie seems to be a lot bigger than Cowboy, though. No,
I don't know about that.
I know Cowboy was cutting a lot of weight early in his career, but he's a long guy. I don't know. It just seems like Lowe is a lot thicker and a lot more just massive.
I don't think Robbie's the biggest 170 guy. Yeah, absolutely, from a power standpoint. Yeah, Robbie's definitely a lot more powerful. But yeah, I can't wait. That's going to be on UFC 205 in New York, so. It's gonna be a fucking banger, man.
No, I was gonna say, man, for any boxing fans that are gonna listen to this, if you want to check out a guy to get into MMA, fucking watch Robbie Lawler, man. I mean, this guy, what can be said? You've said it all with him. The guy's an absolute savage, and yeah, we'll get to his fight with Woodley in a bit, man, because I was quite devastated about that as well. But Cowboy's looking good, and you're right. He is the true like definition of a mixed martial artist, man. This guy can do it all. Like his fucking stand up is sick. His ground game is sick. He can wrestle. You know, he can fight off his back. He can do anything. So if you look at the skill set, you know, he's got it all. But there's something about him that whenever he has a title fight or there's something huge at stake, he just doesn't really seem to pull the trigger, which is strange. I never really quite understood it. Even in the early days when he just joined UFC, like he came out of the WEC, people were interviewing him after winning streaks, and they're like, "Oh, Cowboy, you know, you ready for the title?" And he would be like, "Yeah, I just want to fight." You know, you see a lot of interviews with him back in the day where he just said, "Yeah, I just want to fight. I don't really care about the title," which is weird, right? I mean, I figure most guys that again get into any combat sport is to become a fucking champion, and that's a gateway to make a lot of money. But it's all about getting that status, and he never really seemed to care about it. And at one point, he kind of got into it a little bit, but he never really displays that hunger, you know. And I don't know what it is, man. Maybe he needs to go see a sports psychologist or something, or maybe he's just happy with what he's doing. You know, he seems to really enjoy fighting, and the fact that he hasn't been a champ doesn't really seem to bother him that much. So,
well, because it's the UFC and he has fun fights, and he's a guy that'll fight anybody, so he's always going to be on good cards and make good money. So I don't necessarily think like the title's that necessary for him, that he's going to be too hung up on it.
Yeah. No, he does make good money, and yeah, if you look at the way he lives his personal life, like he just pumps all of that money into like extreme sports and skydiving and doing all kinds of crazy shit. Like that's the way he lives his life. But I don't know, man. I think on a personal level, I think the guy might end up, you know, in a bad situation because he says it himself. He spends all his fucking money. That's why he fights so much. You know, he's like, oh, I need a new paycheck. Let me get in the cage and fight again. So I wonder how, you know, the end of his career is going to turn out. But let's quickly move on to RDA against Alvarez, Lynn. You were there,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Fuck, man. I did that was unexpected for me. I don't know what you thought,
yeah.
but that was crazy.
I thought RDA was pound for pound, maybe not number one, but like the top 3 or 5. I thought he was the most complete champion. Like RDA doesn't really have that many weaknesses. Like his stand-up is legit. His leg kicks are fucking brutal. Just ask Anthony Pettis. His ground, I mean, he's a black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He really doesn't have any weaknesses. So, yeah, it's the old adage, I think, in MMA. Like anything can honestly happen. I know people say that all the time with boxing, but I think just the fact there's so many different things that can happen in an MMA match with all the different variables that you have to account for. Anything can really happen, and Eddie just caught him. And from what I heard, actually, I heard that RDA had a rough weight cut in that fight, and he looked really, really bad during the weigh-ins for that fight. And I just don't think he was all that there. You know, he started off very, very reticent, which is something that you don't really think of with RDA. He usually always comes as the aggressor, and in that fight, it seemed like he was okay with kind of just dancing around and fighting more on his back foot. So I don't know what exactly happened, but I just think it's one of those inexplainable things that Eddie just got lucky that night. You know, if you repeat this shit 10 times, I think RDA beats Eddie 9 times out of 10. I just think he's that much better of a fighter than Eddie. Maybe 8.
Though, really? I didn't see it that much. I thought RDA was looking pretty good until he got cracked. Especially towards that moment. He was coming forward. He's getting quite aggressive. There were a couple of good exchanges in there.
Yeah. No. I think I'm confusing him for another fight. I don't think he was necessarily in the back foot, but he wasn't as aggressive as he usually is, though. I don't think.
He wasn't.
It seemed like he was much more calculated in his output Because for me, I always look back to the way that he just completely mauled Pettis. Like, he didn't give him any kind of breathing space whatsoever. And maybe he just respected Eddie a little bit too much, but it did seem like he was very, I don't know, reserved with his output. But I don't know. I'm trying to look for explanations or solutions right now because I just can't believe that he still lost that fight. I really can't.
Well, one thing, it was a post-USADA fight, right?
Yeah, but he was post-USADA multiple times, though, right?
I think the Pettis fight wasn't, right? The Pettis fight wasn't.
I'm not sure, but I know obviously the fight before was post-USADA.
I like RDA, Lim, but again, I'm not one of these guys that just goes out on the internet and just blasts guys for fucking doping or whatever. But the UFC, has really opened my eyes regarding this subject, and the amount of guys that have just been transformed. And with transform, I mean like shrunk, just shrunk down from after this USADA program. It's just incredible. I mean, so many guys are physically different. If you look at Vitor, if you look at Overeem, like the list just goes on and on and on. And
yeah, no,
RDA
I hear
is
you.
another guy. Yeah, and RDA is another guy that when you look at his early days in the UFC, he looked like a different fucking person, man. That version of him that fought Pettis, he was just built like a fucking tank, and he just, like we said, he just came forward with reckless abandon and just kept chopping away, leg kick, punch, takedown, repeat. Like he just kept on doing that for 5 rounds. Insane stamina, just vicious instincts. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, but the RDA that did fight Cowboy, that was a fight that I was pointing to. He looked like a fucking beast in that fight as well. I know it lasted, I think, 66 seconds, but I'm just talking about from a physical standpoint. That was obviously post-USADA, and he looked fucking ripped as fuck. So I know where you're coming from, and I do think USADA, and if I were to, I guess, make a statement or have an argument, I would lean more towards your argument. But at the same time, I also think it's really unfair that some of these loudmouth MMA quote-unquote analysts like Brendan Schaub, he fucking accuses everyone on being on fucking steroids, and I don't think that's fair either. There's certain cases where it's so obvious that, you have to think that that individual was taking shit all along, but at the same time, you do have to, I think, practice due diligence and understand that some of these guys are just naturally much, much more fit and genetically a lot stronger than a lot of other people. Like even Jose Aldo. I always thought Jose Aldo was juiced to the fucking gills. And he fucking destroyed Frankie Edgar. I thought he looked fucking amazing against Frankie. And that was post-USADA. So, I don't know, man. I think there's a certain middle balance. I mean, if you were to ask me, did RDA take roids in the past, I would probably say yes. But at the same time, I do think RDA is a hell of a fighter. And that plays, I think, a bigger percentage than supplements in terms of how good of a fighter he is.
Yeah, and about his style, I would certainly agree with you. I love his style.
Yeah,
I love that
so
come
complete
forward style with leg kicks. That's right up my alley.
Yep.
And who knows, man? If it was a rematch, I wouldn't necessarily put my money on Alvarez. I really wouldn't. It's a very tough fight to call. I think it could have easily gone the other way around. If RDA cracked him on the chin. We'd have a different fight. So that is a bit difficult to call, but this is actually a good segue because we have, I think, another fight confirmed for RDA, right? Which is Ferguson on November 5th in fucking Mexico, bro.
Yeah, Mexico City, yeah.
God damn, this is why I love the fucking UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, what a fight.
I think, for me, I'm picking RDA. I feel like stylistically, this is a very good matchup for RDA. So, I think Tony is a very wiry fighter. Some of the shit that he does on his back on the ground game is fucking incredible. I think he's a showman, right? But I think against RDA, that showman stuff doesn't really work. Like, you really have to, I think, be very, very precise in your output, and you have to know when to take your chances against RDA. And I just feel like with RDA's compact size and just the way that he keeps everything in a very short distance, I don't think that spells good for Ferguson. So I'm picking RDA by stoppage, second round. And I also didn't like the way Tony looked against that last guy, and in Sayus Falls or wherever the fuck they had that fight. And I know it's one fight, but I just think, I don't know, that come forward type of pressure that RDA can implement, I think, can cause trouble for him.
I absolutely agree with you. I think, like you said, the key is these compact punches, like these short little hooks and straight punches that RDA throws. Ferguson tries a lot of wild shit. He will fucking dive on a leg out of nowhere and go for a leg lock. And he's got a funky ground game, and his stand-up is it's okay, but he's very wide defensively, right? I mean, there's gaps everywhere. And like RDA comes in with those straight punches, he's going to crack him for sure. So I would probably, I think I'd probably pick RDA. Don't know by stoppage though, man. Ferguson can be hurt, but he's a tough motherfucker. But it's just another great fucking fight, man. I mean, this I know we're not going to talk about boxing, but the amount of fights that we have to discuss on this show just tells you how great it is to have a fucking league, where the top 10 all fight each other. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah. God. No, I'll keep my mouth shut, but it's night and day when you know exactly
right?
when you know exactly what to expect. And I mean, we've been off air for I think like 5 months now, and it just seems like we don't have enough time to talk about all of the fights that have taken place in that time span. But what are some other good fights that are coming up? We can talk about two or three.
I got a list in front of me, man. Let's
all right, go for
down.
it.
So we still haven't talked about Lawler Woodley, right?
Jesus. Yeah.
So he's your boy, man. He got violently stopped, unfortunately. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I mean, and we obviously talked about this fight, and leading up to it, I was telling you there's no way that Tyrone wins this fight. The only chance that I gave Tyron was probably the first 60 to 120 seconds of that fight, just because like he is the definition of a fast twitch muscled athlete, right? I mean, if you look at this dude, he is so fucking muscle bound. Him and Yoel Romero, I think, are the two most jacked fighters I've ever seen, and it's incredible how much power that they generate. And I think more so Woodley than Yoel, just because you saw that right hand. That fucking right hand is a bazooka, man. Like him and Anthony Rumble Johnson, I think the amount of power that they can generate within a single punch is fucking incredible. But my expectation to that fight, and the reason why I picked Robbie, was I felt like Robbie could have weathered the storm. I felt like Tyron would have had some success in the very, very early stages of that fight, but we both know that he gasses out, and he gasses out fairly quickly. And I thought that it would have looked like a little bit like Rory McDonald versus Tyron, in that I could have seen Robbie, I think, stifle his output towards the later rounds in that fight, stop his takedowns, and just slowly calculatingly just stop him towards the end of the fight, because I do think Robbie's such a savage in that regard. But I mean, again, we constantly talking about anything can happen in this sport, and to me, that fight just was the definition of that. I mean, you really can't blink once in this sport, because anything can happen.
Yeah. Woodley is all power. If you look at his legs, his body, he just generates incredible amount of power on these punches, and he's improved it over the years as well. Like when he first came to the UFC and he had a couple of fights, he didn't have that confidence in his stand-up, and he would often resort and kind of start to panic wrestle a little bit, and he's really changed that over the years. And he just might be a nightmare, like stylistically for Lawler. Like Lawler is the type of guy that if you don't put him away, you're fucked. You might win the fight, but he's gonna take a few years off your career. It's gonna be a fucking dog war. Shout out to Black Ski Mask Joe, but
yeah, you're right.
It's what I mean. Like you just, unless you take the guy out, you're gonna have a hell of a night. Just ask Rory McDonald. And I think at this point, Woodley just has a lot of confidence in his stand-up, and he will just go for the knockout. And if he doesn't get it, just like Rumble, he's basically fucked. But I don't know, man. I have a feeling that Woodley is really going to continue to improve, and he's going to be a problem for anybody, man. I mean, how do you fight a guy like him? Okay, you got to take it slow. You got to weather the storm. But if he connects, it's over, man. And a lot of people say like, oh, you know, Lawler's been through too many fucking wars. Yes, he's had a long career. This guy is one of the originals, you know. Like, he was in the UFC, then left the UFC, and then fucking came back to the UFC. Like, he's been there for ages, man. I think he was in Matt Hughes' original team.
Yeah.
He's just old school, man. But I don't think it's. I just think he got punched by one of the most vicious punchers in MMA right now, and yeah, he got caught with his chin up in the air, man. What can you do, right?
Dude, Robbie, I could watch Robbie interviews all day long. That guy cracks me the fuck up. He is one of the funniest guys that I've ever seen, just because of his demeanor. Like, he's such a savage, man.
Unintentionally funny, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, the definition of unintentional comedy. I remember, I think there was a old school video of Ariel Helwani interviewing him when he was fighting in Strikeforce, and Ariel was just like, "What kind of stuff do you like to do in your downtime?" He's like, "Well, I just like to fight and play video games. I just fight, and then I'll go home in my basement and play Madden. There's really not much else that I do." And Ariel was like, "Okay." I remember when they were asking Robbie about a potential Conor fight, and Robbie was like, "Yeah, if I was Nate, I wouldn't have stopped him. I would have taken his soul." And Tyrone's just like, yeah, he just gave him like, "What the fuck? What'd you just say?" So I love Robbie. I do think he's getting a little bit old, but at the same time, I don't think you could place that loss just on his age, just because of the way that fight took place. Like, maybe if the fight had lasted a little bit longer and you could see deficiencies in his game, you could make that kind of judgment call. But the fact that the fight ended in essentially 2 minutes with barely any kind of sequences in that fight, I don't think you can take away anything from that performance and say for certain that Robbie was damaged goods or whatnot. It's just too early to tell. And I think, like you said, I just think Tyrone is a nightmare matchup for Robbie, and I think the only guys that really give him a lot of trouble are the ones who have a superior athletic advantage over him.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Woodley is an interesting character because he won that fight, and then he starts acting all of a sudden like a fucking diva and demanding certain fights.
Yeah, like a boxer.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I actually hadn't even thought about that, but you're right on the money there.
Yeah, like all these pussies in boxing that are ruining this fucking sport. Like, he's acting like one of those guys.
I mean, he just, I just don't understand it. It's like, it's fucking weird. Like, you just won the title. You haven't even got one defense, and you're calling a guy out that is retired. Like, I want GSP. Well,
that's a completely other subject. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the battle between GSP and the UFC is pretty fascinating. But my bad. Carry on.
Yeah, from a business perspective, for sure. But I mean, if that's who you call out when you first got the belt, it's ridiculous. I mean, I want to see that Wonderboy fight. I think that's a fascinating clash of styles.
Yep, absolutely.
I hope that Wonderboy has, improved his takedown defense enough, because obviously Woodley, I don't think he's going to stand with him. I think he's going to try to take him down if he's smart. But that's a great fucking fight. It's a fresh matchup. That's what I want to see as a fan. I want to keep that flow going. But this guy, he hasn't even had a fight confirmed now. I don't know what's going to happen. But according to Dana, I think he wants that Wonderboy fight, so it's probably going to happen.
Yeah. And whatever Uncle Dana wants, Uncle Dana gets.
No, he certainly does, man. So, what else have we got?
Let's just talk about Damian Maia for a quick second. I know that's probably not a fight that you put in your list, but Jesus Christ, man, this guy is so brilliant on the ground. Just the way that he's like a technician. He's like the definition of. This is actually kind of inappropriate, but I compare him to like a very, very efficient prostitute. He just gets the job done, these girls out here, the ones that they don't get paid by the hour. They get paid when you come, and that's Damian Maya, man. He just gets the job fucking done. He goes in there, he takes you down, he takes your back, and that's it. Game fucking over. I think there's just some incredible stat that he's only taking, I think, 12 punches to the face.
Yeah.
I think in his past 4 or 5 fights, I don't know what it is, but that's fucking incredible, man. Yeah, I know he's not the most aesthetically pleasing guy, but I'm just so in awe of his brilliance in jiu-jitsu. And he's probably a guy that neither Wonder Boy nor Tyrone wants to face because, Jesus Christ, man. Talk about a stink fest and talk about a stylistic, maybe not nightmare, but obviously a tough matchup for both.
Well, what surprises me about Damian Maya is the fact that he's getting these guys to the ground nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, we always knew that he had a sick jiu-jitsu game, but the problem with one of these one-dimensional jiu-jitsu guys in the past has always been that, how the fuck do you get them on the ground? Because they don't have that wrestling pedigree where they can, overpower a guy, double leg him, and take him down. They always seem to, like Verdum is a good example. He tries to like fucking trick guys into diving in his guard because he just has no other way of taking them down.
Right.
Whereas Maya has kind of gotten in a flow of things where he's just mastered many different ways, to take guys to the ground, and then it's fucking over. He's like a fucking boa constrictor, man. This guy will fucking strangle you. So I still think there's a limit, though, man. I mean, I'm very surprised by what he's done so far. But if he's going to run into a guy that defends that takedown, he's in a world of hurt because his stand-up is, not very good. And he had a phase where he thought he was good, and he was getting battered. And then he realized, okay, you know what? I am a jiu-jitsu guy. Let's focus on that, and let's focus on getting it to the ground. But yeah, I thought Condit would do a lot better against Maya. I was very, very disappointed in that. And I think the winning streak is what now? 5-6 fights, right?
I thought it was 8.
Is it 8 fights? Jesus.
I think it's a little bit higher. Yeah, that's why this is that's why that division is in such a debacle because, Dana already promised Wonder Boy the title fight, but I think you can easily make the case that Damian, is just as worthy as Wonder Boy. So. But again, he's not a draw, so I doubt that fight takes place for quite some time.
Who would you pick, Wonder Boy against Maya?
Oh, Jesus Christ, man! How do you even pick that fight, dude? Fuck, I don't know. I really don't know. Just because I think Thompson has done a lot better in terms of maintaining distance ever since his loss against Matt Brown. So I don't know, man. I really have no fucking idea who wins that fight. Because it's such polar opposites, man. Like, if you think about it, these are two guys who are such specialized MMA fighters, right? They specialize so much to one degree, it's almost impossible to really pick a winner.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. But I think I would go with Maya, man. I think Wonder Boy's improved a lot, but I think Maya can get him to the ground if he doesn't catch a leg on the way in or something like that. Yo, exactly. Kid Galabum is saying that you sound so fucking miserable on the coalition compared to this Mystic Bum show.
Who, myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret, man. I really hate the way that boxing is being organized. I feel like it's killing the sport, and I don't know where you reside, Kid Galabum, but at least here in the States, I mean, people within my age group, nobody talks boxing anymore, man. Nobody follows the sport of boxing. Everything is UFC. Everything is MMA. And for the longest time, I was the guy who was always the curmudgeon and would always try to say, oh, boxing is better. Boxing is much, much better. And I still obviously love the sport of boxing, but I've turned so much on the sport of UFC just because of the fact that it's a well-rounded sport, man. And you look at the trajectory of both sports, and where they're going to be at in 5 to 10 years, at least here in the States, it's not even a comparison, dude. I mean, the type of revenue that the UFC is drawing, and just the fact that they got acquired by the biggest entertainment group in the world, it speaks volumes about what that trajectory is. And you and I, we love the numbers and the analytics, yeah. And
the sequences.
The sequences, exactly. From that perspective, I think we're in a good place. I think myself and Uncle Diana, I think we're in a very good place. So, Yeah, I mean, what can I say, Kid Gallivan? Even if you aren't the biggest fan of the UFC, like Kimo mentioned a couple minutes ago, just we're running out of time right now to discuss all of these fucking fights, dude. It's just fight after fight after fucking fight. So yeah, bro. If you want to continue down the list, please go for it.
Yeah, well, we're getting to the emotional part of the show, bro, because we're gonna have to talk about your.
Hold on? Can I ask? Does it start with an L?
With an L, yes.
Oh
yeah,
Lord, have mercy.
It's a guy that's been.
And last name start with an R.
Yes.
And is he known as a Santa Cruz bad boy? As the
Yo, I never even heard that fucking thing there.
I just made it up on the spot. The guy who supposedly got a blowjob from some girl on $1 Million Matchmaking. that man.
The man that you've idolized for many months and even considered to fall in love with, but
no, I mean, what can I say, dude? For Alvarez RDA, Luke Rockhold was there, and I had fantastic seats for that fight. there were these 8 girls, right? I'm pretty sure they were all escorts, but when Luke walked past, they all just like fucking fucked the fuck out of him for a minute. They just looked at him like, we'll let you fuck all of us for free. I've never seen anything like it before. The man is a stud. He's a good-looking guy. But he got his ass whooped. He certainly did.
Oh, God.
Now, this is the definition of anything can fucking happen in the sport. You have these guys rewind this shit. I mean, just think about the first fight. Rockhold fucking obliterated him. You know what I'm saying? Was there even like a single exchange that Bisping won in that fight? And this is a better version of Rockhold. So, Jesus Christ, man. Talk about a fucking farce of a fight. But I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say. And the fact that Bisping was on 2 weeks' notice. Jesus.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, it was obviously Rockhold's mistake because he fought like a fucking retard, like he just kept his hands down, chin up in the air, no respect for Bisping whatsoever. And you can obviously point it to that, right? But there's another aspect to it, and that's something I've noticed more in the modern day era of the UFC, and that's how quickly titles change in this fucking organization. Because back in the day, you used to have a bit more of these long reigning champions, like your GSPs, your Andersons, your Aldos. These guys used to reign for a long time. You always had a couple of guys that were dominant. But nowadays, and I can't really think of any division, except for when John Jones was fighting at light heavyweight, that's just being dominated by one or two guys. The title always seems to change, whether it's heavyweight, whether it's middleweight. I mean, it's some people say if some people say like it diminishes the sport a little bit. What do you think about that? Because I disagree with that.
No, I disagree entirely as well. And I think, however, let me just preface what I'm about to say with, I do think the Rockhold Bisping outcome actually does kind of hurt the sport a tiny tad bit, just because it was such a fluke in my opinion that it kind of makes you wonder how the fuck does this happen in the UFC. But no, I think these guys have evolved so much since the inception of the UFC, and I think kind of like we were talking about how wrestling seemed to be such a dominant aspect of the sport in the past. I feel like guys have evolved so much, and they've just improved so much in their ability to gauge distance, their ability to just fight and be competent in so many different areas that, like, just think about it mathematically, right? From a formula perspective, in boxing, there's one thing that you need to focus on, right? And that's really all you need to focus on. So the better fighter, the more skilled person is going to win most of the time. However, when you dilute that formula and you add 4 to 5 different variables, the science and the percentages just go completely out of the loop. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different kind of mathematical formula that comes into play. And with that being said, there's more chances for outliers to come into play. There's the ability for kind of like a Rockhold, Bisping, fucking Tyrone, Robbie, and that kind of stuff to come into play, just because there's so many different ways that you can win in the sport. And I I think it actually it says so much about the UFC, the fact that titles move around constantly, because it not only says that their fighters are much more competitive, which is the whole point of watching a fucking sport to begin with, but secondly, they actually have the willingness to put these guys in a cage to actually test who's better against one another. So, this sport is constantly evolving. I think it's in such an exciting place right now in its history, just because there's so many ways that people can improve. One guy can be a better BJJ practitioner. They can improve their Muay Thai. Another guy can, improve their fucking karate like Wonder Boy. There's just so many different elements to factor in. And I feel like this is going to become even more exaggerated in the future, because guys are just constantly going to get better.
Nah.
Preach. Yo, we got our resident Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert on the line, man. MvChu.
Yeah, bro. Tell us your belt. Tell us your belt color, what gym you train out of, and yeah, man. Is it raining where you're at right now?
Yeah, it's raining.
Oh, okay.
It's raining. I don't have a belt color. I'm like CM Punk. I'm a white belt for life.
Oh, so you're a bum. Who's gonna get his ass whooped this Saturday, huh?
Hell no. He's gonna win.
What's up, you bum?
What's up? You talked about CM Punk yet?
No. We're saving that for a little bit later.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that 203 card.
Yeah. We'll get into the card in a bit, man. But I want to ask you, MvChu, a question I asked Lim the first show we did. Is how did you actually get into MMA, and what are some of the first fighters that you watched? Like, how did you get into the sport?
The first fight I watched was Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture.
Fuck
I
yeah.
think it was the second fight. And yeah, from there I've kind of been a casual. I'm a casual MMA fan. I'm not a hardcore fan like I'm at boxing. But I've always been. Recent years I've been kind of watching it more and more. The fight that kind of hooked me once and for all was Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald.
Yeah.
I saw that fight and I was like, all right, okay, I'm on board now. I was kind of skeptical. It was just the boxing fan in me. I didn't want to admit that this better game was on the. It is better at the moment. Fucking boxing fans are going to shit on me, but I mean, it's the truth. I just didn't want to admit that this better combat sport was on the scene. So after that fight, I was kind of like, you know what, man, these guys are fucking warriors. It doesn't matter if they kick and fucking grapple. The ironic thing being that the whole time when I'm being fucking skeptical of it, I'm fucking training MMA. But I've to me, there's always been a difference between training it and watching it. It's only been recent years that it's been, to me, somewhat entertaining. Because before I was kind of shitting on the boxing ability, but even then you look at guys like TJ Dillashaw, fucking Robbie Lawler, even Rory McDonald's stand-up games fucking came on. There's a whole bunch of guys. Who's that Brazilian heavyweight who's got a great boxer as well? Junior Dos Santos, his boxing's fucking shit up. So many guys who, if they were to go into boxing, I'm not saying they would be world champions, but I think they could do well. Fucking Nate Diaz. Fucking what Andre Ward said about Nate Diaz is quite interesting. He says, I spar fucking MMA guys, I spar fucking Georges St. Pierre and all sorts of guys in the wild card or in fucking his gym or whoever. But the only MMA guy who's gave him trouble was Nate Diaz. Just in terms of the angles he throws and the variety of punches he throws. I've always said for a long time, the day when an elite boxer goes over to MMA, I'm not talking about a shot James Toney, an elite boxer at the top of his game goes to MMA, learns some grappling, that's when the sport will change.
Like Amir Khan?
Like an Amir Khan.
Yo, Kimo, did you hear what
Not
you
him,
said about Amir Khan last week?
Yo, what do you mean the sport will change? What do you mean?
I love it.
Well,
Preach.
when you got like a Machida coming into the sport with his karate, and that kind of shifted. You know, it's like trends in MMA. You know, like fucking he's got his karate, and then everyone's learning that switch hitting kind of karate stance, and you know everybody's copying that, and then. You know, fucking guys like Matt Hughes with their wrestling and their takedowns, that's trending, and everybody's trying to get that. You know, I've always said that when an elite boxer at the top of their game goes into it, you know, he's just going to clear up. He's just going to clear up.
Are you fucking trolling, or are you being serious right now?
I'm being serious. I'm definitely being serious. When an elite boxer who's boxing for like 7 or 8 years old, and then starts training MMA at like 15 or something, then goes into MMA, that's when the game will change, because in the minute guys who are boxing when they're like 7, 8 years old, you know, they go into the more lucrative path, which is boxing. But, you know, the money is starting to go to the other side. It's starting to go to the UFC, and when a elite level, say an Olympic prospect, decides to go on, you know, it's starting to happen in women's MMA as well already. You know, fucking Olympic female boxers are going into female MMA because it's more money in it. When males start doing the same thing, I think that's when you'll see some changes, man. Because I still think when you look at the boxing and MMA, man, it still doesn't compare. You might get some good guys, but it's still not the same. I definitely think when a boxer decides to do that, that's when the game will change.
Yeah, but Chu, you got to understand, that's in most sports. If you watch high-level Muay Thai, there's no fucking comparison to what they call Muay Thai and MMA. When a guy throws a leg kick in fucking MMA, you hear Goldberg saying, oh, he's got great Muay Thai. Well, motherfucker, just because he throws a leg kick doesn't mean he's a great Muay Thai stylist. You know what I mean? If you fight a real fucking Muay Thai fighter in Thailand with 200 fights, one leg kick is going to fucking take your leg off, bro. Like, these guys are fucking machines. And it's the same with boxing. You know, if you have a boxer with 60, 70 fights, you know, obviously he's going to have better boxing than most MMA fighters. The same holds with grappling. You know, you have so many fucking, you know, A-level legendary jiu-jitsu practitioners who will never make it in the MMA world because they're just focused on one aspect. I kind of disagree with you. I think that whole era of one type of style coming through is over. Yeah, you got guys that are changing a little bit the way they move sometimes, you know, like you get these Wonder Boy type of characters that have a karate style. And Conor has a bit of a karate style, you know, a bit of a karate / taekwondo style. But at the end of the day, you need to have all fucking aspects of it. And most of the guys that are becoming these new prodigies, they haven't grown up training boxing. They've grown up training MMA. That's the difference.
I disagree. There is always some exceptions. You get a guy like Josh Barnett, heavyweight. You know, he can go into grappling competitions, beat a guy like Dean Lister, who's the fucking man, or it was, in BJJ. You know, fucking Dean Lister hadn't been tapped out in fucking decades. And fucking Josh Barnett tapped him out with a fucking wrestling move. So, I mean, to say that an MMA guy couldn't go into BJJ and not be like competitive in like a Eddie Bravo competition, it's just not true. And I'm sure there's like, you don't know that an MMA guy couldn't go into like a Thailand competition and clean up. You just don't know that. I mean, it's all hypothetical.
Yeah, dude.
Let's just agree to disagree.
No,
we
sorry, I don't really agree with you. You're taking like one fight, and by the way, Barnett had a fucking huge weight advantage in that fight, and he's a very accomplished grappler himself. And as far as I understand, Dean Lister has also fucking done MMA. Just because he's competed in like pure submission grappling doesn't mean he's not an MMA fighter. He's done MMA as well. But I think if you look at the trend of MMA over time, diversity and not being, you know, excelling at one particular style is always gonna make you the best possible fighter within MMA that you can be. I think John Jones is a perfect fucking example of that. You know, the guy is obviously an athletic talent, and he's got a talent for fighter. But he started from what? Yeah, he had a little bit of a wrestling background. But look at what this guy does. Look at how he grew up in the MMA world. He started training MMA. Do you know what I mean? And he became so fucking good at so many different aspects of the game. And I think that's the future, man. You got kids going to MMA gyms these days that when they grow up and they're 18 years old, they can do fucking everything, man. I think that's the future. I don't know what you think, Lim.
No, yeah, bro. I agree. I think they're trying to be the next CM Punk. They're trying to be the next Mickey Gall. You know, they want to be that level of greatness. So I think the only way that you can get to that level is to start training MMA. But in all seriousness, I think you guys are both wrong. I think the future movement of the sport is Ido Portal's touch butt. I think that is the only way that you could become, you know, Conor McGregor level great. But no, I don't know, man. This is this discussion that you guys are having is very interesting, but I think it's a black hole. It's really hard to really understand for certain one way or the other, you know, how you guys agree upon something. But I do lean a little bit more towards your perspective, Kimo, but I can kind of see where MvChu is coming from. I think Golovkin would be a damn good UFC fighter if he tightened up his grappling game. I really do, man. I don't know, but it's a completely moot point because, you know, there's no point in discussing these hypotheticals. But were there any other fights left on the list you made, Kimo?
Where did we leave off? We had Rockhold versus Bisping. I think those are kind of all the reviews that I wanted to talk about from the last few months. Maybe we can ask Chu what he thought of the McGregor fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't. I've watched it. I was drunk at the time, and I can barely remember it. But I was surprised at the leg kicks. You know, I was picking Nate Diaz. You guys all know that. The only reason I was picking Nate Diaz was because I think to beat Nate Diaz, you need to use a lot of leg kicks and you need to push him backwards the same way that RDA was pushing him backwards. And I just didn't see that Conor could do that. You know, I've never seen it. He throws kicks, but he doesn't really throw leg kicks. And even when he did throw leg kicks, he fucked his leg up. And that was because Nate was doing a good job checking them. But, you know, I was surprised, you know, how much he wanted it. Conor did. You know, he was prepared to walk through fire. I'll be honest with you, it's good to fight a draw. From what I can remember, there was one round, I can't remember if it was the third or fourth, I thought, you know, you could give it to anyone. It wasn't the third, actually. I think Conor got his ass kicked in the third, but I think it was maybe the fourth where Conor had a little rally. But, you know, fucking Conor McGregor's the man. You've got to say that he's put his money where his mouth is, and but he's too small for that weight. You know, like he said in the after fight, he's got a little bit of a belly. And to me, I looked a wee bit slower towards the end. Not at the beginning. He was as sharp as attack at the beginning, but as the fight went on, similar to what Kell Brook, I expect Kell Brook to gas out late in his fight against Golovkin, and just because he's not used to the extra weight. And I think Conor, with that extra weight, he's not got the stamina that he does at the lower weight classes. So, props to Conor for holding on, even though he was gassing out.
Are there any other past fights that you wanna discuss, Chu? I don't know if you've been listening to the show.
Well, in the history of MMA?
No, well, not in the history. I'm saying of the last 2 to 3 months. We talked about Rumble Johnson. We talked about Cerrone, Lawler, Woodley, Bisping, Rockhold, Eddie Alvarez.
I saw the Robbie Lawler Tyrone Woodley fight. You know, that's the thing with MMA is like a guy can just bum rush a guy and get him out of there in 1 minute. And, you know, it's shocking to see a champion dethroned. But to me, it's, like you were touching on it earlier, it's a bit of an anticlimax to constantly see 1 minute's action. And then that's it. You know, it's That's why Amir Khan would get fucked up in MMA, because of those gloves, you know, all you need is one punch. And you know, I don't think Tyrone Woodley's a worthy champion, if I'm being fucking honest. You know, he was like a top 10 contender who, if memory serves me right, he didn't have many fights in that year running up to it. He was waiting on his shot, but I can't recall like him getting any wins. Did Wonderboy not beat him? You know, like. Is that right? Wonderboy beat Woodley, is that right?
No.
It was McDonald.
McDonald, that's it. McDonald, yeah. Sorry, I was getting confused with those two. Yeah, like McDonald beat him.
Yeah.
And then fucking McDonald's fucked off to Bellator.
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of. There's a lot of that in MMA. It's like you might beat one guy, but you might not beat the other guy. That's what makes it interesting. In fairness,
Exactly. Which is why there's so many turnover in the belts, right?
Exactly. And
Make fights.
But he loses Woodley. He loses Shin. He's not going to be a dominant champ. You know, I like it. I like his aggression. But you know, there's many guys who can beat him. Wonderboy being one.
You think he would knock him out?
Absolutely, head kick.
I love how sure he is about that.
Yeah. Just a head kick.
So you think I should take out a mortgage and put some money down on that?
Why not? Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. Why not?
Hey,
all right.
random
Anything else,
question,
Oh yeah,
guys.
go for it.
Do you guys watch the female fights at all? Like, do you enjoy that?
I watched Amanda Nunes for jiu-jitsu.
That Polish, the Polish bantamweight champ.
Yeah,
she's
Joanna.
Joanna.
She's a beast.
Joanna. I love when she's on the Mac Life. Connor's like, Joanna, how's you?
Yeah, she got some good stand-up for a girl, man. She's one of the better strikers out there.
Yeah,
really good combinations. I like watching her fight. And she fucks girls up, man, with those elbows. Oh, my God. Did you guys see that fight against...
Claudia? Gadea?
No, Jessica Penne?
Oh, yeah. Poor Jessica.
My God. Chew, your girl, your Scottish girl, Joanne Calderwood, is fighting this weekend, eh? You know her?
Not personally, no.
She's Scottish, man.
Yeah, I've saw her fight. I've saw her get fucked up a few times. I think she's on a little bit of a run. You know, she's had a couple of good wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's looking good.
But yeah, there was a fight a couple fights ago. I think I'd been against Joanna, the Polish girl, and she absolutely fucked her up. And to me, that just is an indication that she may be a very good contender, but she'll never be that elite class. You know, she's no Ricky Burns.
No. Obviously, but not many people are.
Yeah, she's a lot better than Ricky Burns, unfortunately.
That's blasphemy what you just said, man.
Yeah, but the women's division, I think, is, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but it's kind of like what we're just discussing with their turnover and all of these other divisions. I mean, shit, that, you know, if we're being completely honest, that division and just that, I guess, genre of fighting is evolving much faster than any other division. I think the division that Ronda Rousey left when she lost against Holly Holm is not anywhere near the division it is now. I feel like there's 5 to 6 solid female fighters in that 135-pound division, including Holm, Sanchenko, you know, Juliana Penny's all right, Ken Zingano's all right. You know, you obviously still got Miesha Tate, Ronda when she comes back. So it's
she never will.
Yeah, I think she definitely is. I think she's coming back early next year, and it's going to be interesting what they do with her though, because if she gets in there right away with Holly Holm and she loses, her career's over. But
she's finished.
I don't know. I don't think so. She still has too big of a name. No, I mean, if you lived in the States, you'd be amazed at how much media coverage she still gets. They're gonna catch her out at least one more time. Mark my words.
Absolutely not. She's done. Write it
She's
down.
gonna fight. Okay, well, I don't know what exactly you mean by done. Do you think she's gonna fight again in the UFC?
She'll do
Yeah, she'll-
fucking.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Is that she's gonna fight one more time.
She'll fight one more time, but they'll need to pick her opponent carefully. I'm just looking at the amount of girls who have emerged since she's been gone with great stand-up. Which
Great
is her
stand-up. Who has great
is-
stand-up?
Zinchenko,
Yeah, she has. Okay, that's one.
Yeah.
Holly Holm. I would expect
That's
that
it.
Nunes.
Nunes
Nah,
will
she doesn't.
fuck her up.
You think so?
Actually,
Really?
no, hold on. She might be
We're
able to
gonna
take
say that
Nunes
after
down.
one fight. That's what I'm saying. We're gonna say that after one fight. Dude, come on, man. Nunes loads up so much, and I know Ronda's a fucking bum on the feet, but I would think that she would make it. She would play it so fucking safe in her next fight that she wouldn't give the opponent the opportunity to even, throw off too many punches. I don't know. I don't think Nunes is that good, honestly.
Let's be
Well,
honest.
Nunes does- Go for it.
Let's be honest. She's a one-trick pony.
Yeah, but
Holly
she's
Holm.
fucking amazing at what she does in that one trick department.
Before, she was fucking people up on her feet, but it's almost as if it was the Mike Tyson effect. She got
Yeah.
into people's heads before the fight began, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but a lot of fans, and it's not just me saying this, a lot of fans were like, why don't you just stand up and fight with her? Because it's not as if her boxing's great. She wings those punches, it's looking, and it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
Come on, guys, you need to agree. Our stand-up's fucking horrible. In comparison to like other professional female MMA fighters at that level. I think there's more than more girls will emerge with better stand-up than her by the time she gets back, and she's going to be like barely top 5. And that's just crazy with that game.
Yeah.
You take a little bit of time off, and then before you know it, you're yesterday's news.
Well, Jude, just to jump in there, I mean, I kind of got to retract my statement a little bit because Lim got me thinking about this now. The reason why Holly Holm was so successful against Ronda is because she was a lot on the back foot, and it was the footwork. It wasn't necessarily the boxing. Like Ronda, at the end of the day, yeah, she stopped that one wrestler, I forgot her name, with punches and knees, but that doesn't make her have good stand-up. The advantage for her was always just in the grappling, whether it would be in the clinch or on the ground. Like, she would just dominate in that aspect. And girls that actually come forward, and it doesn't really matter whether you're a good striker or not, that plays in her advantage. Because as soon as you tie up, you're going for a ride. She will do that judo throw on your ass, and you're down, and then you're in her territory. And I said, 1 minute ago that Amanda Nunes would fuck her up. Actually, I'm not too sure about that. Like, she comes forward, man. She tries that fucking bum rush, and that plays right into Ronda's game. So, if you look at Holly Holm's game plan, like, it requires athleticism, it requires discipline, and it requires a certain skill set that she brought in from boxing. So I'm not too sure, even though a lot of girls have improved with their stand-up, if they can still do that same trick to Ronda Rousey. I'm really not too sure about that. I think I got a little bit hasty there with my pick, because Ronda was fucking dominating anybody that even came remotely forward.
Yeah, and also, I think we got to take into account that Ronda fought like a complete fucking retard in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, complete retard. She went full retard.
Yeah. She got punched and...
Jesus Christ, she fought horrible in that fight. And look, I know you can say that Holly Holm dragged her into that fight, which she did, but at the same time, Ronda didn't do herself any favors at all in that fight. And I don't know. And as much as I was, harping on the evolution of the women's game, I still don't think that suddenly, after a 12-month hiatus, Ronda is now suddenly like a bum or outside of the top 5 or top 10 looking inwards. I mean, she ran that fucking sport for like 2 to 3 years. I mean, that has to be taken into account for something. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Nah, she definitely has a unique skill set that's hard to beat. Go for it, Chu.
I see flaws. I mean, you're talking about Holly Holm and her footwork against Ronda Rousey, but Ronda Rousey just kind of charged forwards. Couldn't cut off the octagon, and she was just kind of walking into shit. And I'm just like, that's it. That's the blueprint now. Everyone's just going to do the same shit to her. Fucking Holly Holmes.
Most women can't do that.
Yeah, but who can do that in that division?
Yeah.
Holly Holmes cracked the code.
Okay, we get that, but we asked you who can actually implement that game plan against her.
It doesn't. Listen, see the thing with Holly Holm is, she's a great boxer, but she doesn't have that much power, man.
Again, but that's not the point, though. We've been harping on her movement, her foot movement.
Yeah, but I don't honestly think you need that kind of footwork to beat Holly Holm. She's been knocked out now.
Dude, we're not talking about Holly Holm. We're talking about Rousey.
No, I'm sorry. To beat Ronda Rousey, yeah. I misspeak. She's been knocked out now. The blueprint's been laid. I think you can outbox her. You don't even have to outbox her. I think you can just crack her chin. And I think she's never going to be the same again. And I would put money on Senchenko beating her, Nunez beating her, Holly Holm beating her. She always beat Miesha Tate. That's just a Styles thing. But there's 3 names. Let's see what she's like when she gets back. But I honestly don't think a boxing or a stand-up was that good to begin with.
Yeah, but again, she won her 95% of her fights. She didn't win it via stand-up. So
who did she beat though?
Yeah, but it's not like these other girls are that fucking fantastic. Like you say, Shevchenko is a great stand-up fighter, correct? But how are you going to convince me that if they get in a clinch, that she isn't going to get taken down?
It's like Mike Tyson fucking off to jail, and when he comes back, here's Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. All these beasts. All these beasts have came on the scene. The game's changed. I'm not saying she's a terrible fighter. Obviously, her grappling's shit up, but if you can evade the takedown, like Holly Holm did, that's you've got a very good chance of winning. Can you guys not admit that?
Are you talking about Shevchenko?
No, of course.
Yeah, I can see that, but I also think Shevchenko is very undersized for that weight division. She should be fighting at 125, but obviously there isn't a 125 weight division for her. But I don't know. I still think Ronda. I mean, I think she's one of the 2 best people in that division, man. I just think she had a really bad night against Holly Holm, but I don't know, man. She still beat Kat Zingano in 13 seconds, 14 seconds. She beat the shit out of Bethe Correia. I know she's kind of a bum level fighter, but she fought that white girl, the mother. I don't know, but I don't know. I just think that way. I don't think all of these fighters have improved so much where Ronda's suddenly like not a threat anymore. I don't know.
No, I certainly agree with you. With you there.
But
we got to give her a little bit of credit, even though we dislike her. At least I kind of do. But her grappling was like 10 levels above everybody else. It's still like that. That gave me an eye. Instead of walking forward with your chin in the face, you've got a damn good chance of winning a fight. And Ronda said it herself as well. Like, she got fucking punched in that first round, and she was seeing stars, and she was like blacking out. And she doesn't fucking remember most of the fight. She was fighting purely on instinct, bro. Like you said, and that just made her fight stupid.
And it doesn't help that she has a fucking retard for a trainer.
Oh God, this fucking. You know, he's still like. I don't understand why Travis.
He's training exactly. I was gonna say.
Oh,
I don't know, dude. That guy's a fucking cancer, dude. He's fucking AIDS. That motherfucker.
Is that not our boyfriend?
Yeah,
No,
Travis is.
Travis Brown, yeah.
So that's probably why he trains with him. But I mean, it's just the guy's just fucking terrible. I've seen some bad corner advice, and then the worst I can think of is Jason Perillo with BJ Penn against fucking GSP or Frankie Edgar. But this fucking guy, he's definitely pound for pound the worst. But
dude, Perillo's up there, and then I think number 3 is Billy Briscoe. Even though he doesn't do MMA, he's still, whenever you have a worst of a worst, Billy Briscoe's always in there. So.
Yeah, there's some great corner though, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like what's his name, man? Greg Kavanaugh. Jackson, man. Yeah, Kavanaugh is the fucking GOAT now, but
yeah,
I like
Nate Diaz is one of the best too.
You mean Nick?
No, Nate. Fuck you and your game plan. That's all you gotta know, bro. Yeah, fucking Nick wasn't even allowed in the building for that fight. He was waiting inside the arena.
You know, fucking Nate Diaz is gonna get banned for smoking the fucking hemp oil in the press conference.
Yeah,
that's fucking bullshit.
I don't know about that because I know Nevada dropped it. They're not going to review it, but USADA apparently is still thinking about reviewing that case. So I don't know.
And fucking Nick Diaz has still got that 5-year suspension for smoking weed, while other guys are fucking.
No, it got overturned, man.
Did it?
No, he's coming back, dude.
Yeah, he's coming back. He's eligible to fight now, I think.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But just on your point about Kavanaugh, you know, they've got the expression at that gym. You win or you learn.
Yep.
I think that's a kind of negative mindset because you're kind of expecting to lose. You know what? If I was fighting them, I'd be like, you win or you die.
He's fucking trolling, man.
Okay. Anything else, Chu?
I carry on.
Yo, KH put another nice one from the Diaz's in the chat, man. I think this was Nick when he was fighting Condit, and Condit did like a spinning elbow. He's like, "Oh, we're throwing spinning shit now." Fucking amazing.
One of my favorite video clips is when Nate is on season 4 of Ultimate Fighter, and it's 2 of the guys, I guess, are running around in thongs, and he's like, you know, I'm not gay. I don't have a problem against gay people, but fuck this gay shit. And he just looks so exasperated, like he just can't deal with this shit anymore. It's so funny. They're funny as fuck, man. I'm actually I'm in Northern California right now, and I might stop by Stockton tomorrow just because I want to see where their stomping grounds are, man.
Well, go to see the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, man.
Says the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Surprise.
Boxing clip. Yo, let's do some previews, man, because we fucking talk bullshit for almost 2 hours, but we still haven't even previewed the cards coming up.
Okay.
Let's run through this for a second. We got UFC 203 tonight, actually.
Tonight.
So we got. What day is it today? No, it's Friday. Sorry, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. We got MvChu against Overeem, my boy.
Let's save that for last. Let's start with Punk versus Gall.
Okay.
And then work our way up. I mean, I think I know who Chu's picking.
Oh, yeah.
Cult personality.
No, I'll tell you later.
What?
Tell us now, motherfucker.
Oh, you guys not going to pick first, no?
Oh, yeah, I'll pick. Okay, I'm going with Gall. And I'm not going to even explain my decision. This is a joke. So, what do you think, Kimo?
Here's what's going to happen, right? Gall's going to rush forward. He's going to punch him in the fucking chin, and he's going to get a knockout. And it's probably going to be within 30 to 40 seconds. Go for it, Chu.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a wee bit longer than that, but I've definitely got a goal by knockout. I know you guys are expecting me to pick CM Punk, but when you look at CM Punk and You don't see many sparring footage, but you see the aftermath. You see him like all disheartened and shit after a sparring session. So clearly to me, he's getting his arse kicked. And that's all that is just guess. I'm guessing, but you've heard all the stories that he's been getting beat up in the gym and shit. I've no doubt his jiu-jitsu is fucking good. He's been training for a long time, but he's never going to get the chance to get to the ground because that boy's just going to bomb rush him. I've seen that boy getting interviewed by Arrow Hawani, and I've seen some of his footage on YouTube. You don't know how good fucking CM Punk is, but like you, Kimo, I think the guy's just going to rush him. I think CM Punk is going to panic. Kind of like a Seth Mitchell in boxing. And, he's just going to get knocked out because he's not going to know how to respond to a fucking punch landing on his face.
Drew, I don't know if you saw those series that they've done, like what was it called? Something CM Punk. I forgot the online.
That's it. Something CM Punk. That's how they feel about it.
You should send that to the marketing team.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I think that's how the UFC feels, and I think that's an apt way to title a special for CM Punk, because this motherfucker was supposed to fight a year ago, and all this debacle I think has really taken away from the interest and the appeal in this fight, and just regarding all of the specials, they put it on FS1, and I don't know if you guys are aware, but FS1 is like the channel that nobody fucking watches. It's like the fourth, fifth bastard son of Fox here in the States that nobody really watches, and they put it in on a Monday night directly in competition with WWE Raw. So I really don't think they give a fuck, and I think that's why they picked Mickey Gall to fight CM Punk, because that's a pretty tough matchup for a guy like CM Punk in his very first fight, especially at the age of 37. So he's getting his ass whooped.
Yeah, Lim, at the end of the day, he's not an athlete. He doesn't have any athletic background to him. I mean, even in the fucking WWE, he always looked like a guy that just, doesn't work out enough.
Exactly.
When
Dude had no fucking abs.
But it's not just abs. He's just not an athlete. He doesn't have any history of fucking athletic competition, And at the end of the day, fighting is fighting, but the UFC is athletes that are fighters, and the other way around. I don't know what you want to call it, but at the end of the day, this is a guy that's basically like just one of us, like. Well,
I'm not one of them.
Well, not you. You've actually done athletic competition. I personally haven't. I've only trained for fucking fun, and that's pretty much it. Like, and if I look at his fucking stand-up, honestly, Liam, if I look at his boxing, I could fucking whoop his ass. I mean, he doesn't even know how to throw a fucking punch. Granted, that footage was like a year ago.
Yeah.
He literally looks like one of these fucking guys that comes into the gym for the first time, and you take him, through a few routine exercises. Like he doesn't even know how to extend his fucking punches. He does this weird thing where he like bends over, like I don't know. It just doesn't look right. His stance doesn't look right. His punches don't look right. It's just fucking bad. And I would be really, really surprised if all of a sudden he's like punching with confidence tomorrow night. It just doesn't make fucking sense. And
he's no Brock Lesnar. He's obviously the exception.
Obviously, dude, this guy was a D1 champ at fucking Iowa. I think 2 times.
Yep,
like a national champ.
He's got nothing elite about him to fall back on. No elite wrestling, no elite jiu-jitsu, no elite boxing. But this is the thing about UFC. This is why.
This is the thing,
This is why, as a fan, I'm kind of a wee bit sceptical to get on board, because they set up guys like James Toney and a CM Punk as a kind of sacrifice, like a ritual. Like we're better than all these other sports. We're better than our 2 main competitors, boxing and WWE, because look, their best guys can come over here and they get their ass kicked. But in a sense, these guys are not elite. James Toney was fucking a shadow of his former self. by the time he even got in a fucking MMA octagon. And CM Punk, you know, CM Punk is CM Punk. He's like like you guys said, he's not an athlete, and I feel bad for him. Because clearly this is his dream, and if they were serious about making him a star, they would put him on a prelim against, you know, a guy with like a 4-4 record or something, you know. But instead, they're fucking putting him straight onto the fucking main card against a tough foe. It's just it's stinking.
No,
I just don't understand.
I just think, no, I completely understand where they're coming from. I just think they're exasperated. I think all the stuff that they had to go through the last 12 months, they don't want to deal with that shit anymore. You know, why invest so many of your resources and your capital in trying to build this guy up when you could just essentially cash him out for an event like this weekend? You know, I think he's going to add probably 100,000 pay-per-view buys to this fight and just cut your losses after that, man. The guy's 37 years old, and I don't know, I kind of disagree with you, Chu. I understand that I think the UFC does have an issue with boxers, but I think they actually look towards the WWE to generate more interest, more genuine interest in the UFC. And I think it's more of a healthy relationship that they have with them, and that they want to cross-promote and try to gain additional fans and additional eyeballs off of the back of each other.
You know what I don't understand? I don't understand why they picked Mickey Gall. That to me just doesn't make sense. If you're gonna put on a freak show fight, then give him an opponent that he can beat. You're talking about a fucking guy that's 24 years old. He's athletic. You can see it the way he moves. He's got a little spice to him. You know what I mean? He's got some fire to him, man. He has pretty good stand-up. You know, I've watched a few of his fights. Like he fights pretty good, man. I was surprised when I saw him. I was like, this is who you're fucking picking to fight CM Punk? Like, this guy has legit skills on the fucking ground. He's slick, man.
But maybe they're just tired, man. You know?
I don't know, man.
Just cut your losses, dude.
I mean, both of his pro fights are wins are by submission. Like, the way he took that fucking back, man, in the UFC fight, he's slick,
dude,
bro.
He fought a fucking journalist.
Yeah, but that's the type of guy you should be putting up with CM Punk. CM Punk is a fucking journalist who got off his couch and wants to do MMA. You know what I mean?
I think CM Punk is better than that journalist, but obviously that's besides the point. I don't know, man. I think I kind of, you know, you kind of have to pat their back too, man. The fact that they're willing to pit him in there against someone so tough. Is it that best matchmaking? No, but I don't know, man. I just think they're tired, dude. You know, they don't want to fucking babysit this guy all the fucking time. So I'm
not complaining them. Don't get me wrong.
No, I hear you.
It's just baffling to me because, again, from what I've seen, it's just horrendous. Like, you can take any guy that has boxed, you know, like 2 times a week as a hobby for 2 years, put him in the ring with Punk, and I think he would light him the fuck up, man, if I look at that footage.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And that sparring footage they showed in that TV show, man, I mean, that looked a bit fishy to me. As far as I understood, they put him in with pro fighters, and he, choked one of them out. Like, I'm looking at that, I'm like, this doesn't look legit.
Dude, yeah.
This looks a bit fucking fishy. You know, like,
right.
Again, and he's old, he's not young, you know, like, he's just...
Yeah, I don't like him, man. He's so corny, dude. Him and the fucking straight edge movement bullshit, man. Fuck out of here. That whole, you know, I'm better than you, you know, because I don't do any drugs, I don't drink alcohol. Man, fuck off, dude. You fucking.
But he still looks old as fuck.
Yeah. He's been training for 2 years, and that's how you look like. That's the end result. I'd be pissed.
I know.
Imagine you have the financial freedom to train only for 2 years and not work, not do anything else. And just train.
Man, if I didn't drink or do drugs, man, I'd look like Peter Pan. He was like fucking, I don't know, like a fucking zombie, man. He just looks old as fuck. You know, in relative sense, you know, he doesn't look like fucking the fountain of youth. And the question I was going to ask is, what gym does Mickey Gall train out of? Does anyone know?
No. I think some hillbilly gym in Louisiana.
I've seen him go to like decent gyms though, like travel to train with decent guys. I don't remember the names of it, but he does roll with some decent guys. But he's probably from some hillbilly town, yeah.
He looks like a hillbilly.
That's the thing as well. Fucking CM Punk's had the best training money can buy. You know, this Mickey Gall guy, he's probably working a fucking part-time job or something. And, you know, if he's not now, then he probably was a couple of years ago. You know, he's came up the fucking hard way. You know, he's sacrificed, he's hustled, he's grinded. And CM Punk is like spoiled. Everything about him is pampered.
Yeah.
He's going to get annihilated.
I do like CM Punk's trainer a lot, though. Duke Rufus, I think he's one of the best dudes in the sport, man. He's just a really, really cool guy, but CM's going to get his ass whooped. But anyways, boys, let's move on, man. This is a farce of a fight. I think it's pretty obvious who's going to win. How about Verdum versus Travis Brown? True, did you happen to watch their first fight?
No. Well, I know who won?
Verdum won. Pretty handedly after a pretty rocky first round. He really controlled the pace of the fight afterwards. But do you still have a prediction as to who's going to win the fight?
Verdum.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's, I think, a pretty safe call. It is number 1 versus number 7. But what about you, Kimo?
Yeah, and as far as I understand, Brown is also taking this fight kind of last minute on 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah, 4 weeks, but still.
Is it 4 weeks? Yeah, still,
but the way that he got his ass whooped by Kane.
Yeah.
Kane's a beast. That's another story.
Kane is a fucking monster. To be honest, this fight doesn't really interest me. I mean, it's just one of these fights, and I'm just like, meh. You know, like, I'll watch it, but I'm not really that interested in it. I'll pick Verdum, man, but it's not really, it doesn't really get me going, to be honest. Not like the main event.
Neither did Rothwell versus Verdum either. And
yeah, but at least it was kind of a fresh matchup. You know, Rothwell's kind of funny.
I agree. Yeah, he's also kind of retarded looking, which I think adds to his appeal. Okay, but yeah, I'm picking Verdum as well. I don't really give a shit about this fight because I think Kane is going to get that fight against whoever wins in our main event. So that brings us obviously to Stipe versus your boy Alistair Overeem, Kimo. I'll ask for your prediction last because I know you're very personally interested in this fight. So Kim or Chu, do you have a favorite in this fight between Alistair the Reem Overeem versus Stipe Miocic?
Sorry, did you ask Chu or me?
Yeah, I was asking Chu. So I wanted to ask for your opinion last, but I don't think he's there right now. So I'll go first. I think this is a fascinating fight, man. I mean, stylistically, this is so fucking hard to call. I do think this is like a 51-49 fight in that I do kind of favor Stipe just because of the run that he's been on recently and his age. And I just like his style, man. I think he's kind of like a hybrid heavyweight in that he's pretty good at everything. He kind of reminds me of Kane with a little bit less power, but a little bit more balanced, I think, in terms of his skill sets. And he's been on quite a run, man. I mean, he's beaten Mark Hunt. He's beaten JDS. He's beaten, who else has he beaten? Obviously Verdum to win the title. He beat the shit out of fucking Arlovsky, yeah. So he's on a damn good run, man. And I know we've been harping on kind of like the lack of consistency or sustenance and belts in the UFC. And I really do feel like if you were to select one guy, Stipe would be the guy to take on that role. But I mean, Jesus, man, I think even though Alistair's getting up there in age, I still think he's so dangerous. I mean, the sequences that he displayed against Arlovsky and against JDS was so impressive. He's obviously not anywhere near the fighter he was back in the day in terms of just his athleticism, a large part of that being age and the other part just not being on the juice. But he's still so skilled. He still has so much fucking experience. And I still think in terms of quickness and like one punch, one kick power, I still favor Alistair. And because of that, he's still so dangerous. And he gauges distance very, very well. He knows how to set up traps. And I think he's one of the most intelligent fighters in that division. Like what he did against JDS to me was so impressive. So, Jesus Christ, man, I'm picking Stipe. I'm gonna pick Stipe by 3rd round stoppage. But I feel like Alistair can win this fight just as easily, man. It's a damn good fight.
Alistair.
I think this fight is to analyze it. It's not too difficult. but when it comes to the outcome, it's a fucking wild card. Because this fight is going to come down to one thing, and that's cracking Alistair on the chin and him going down or not. I mean, that's really it. If you think about it, if you look at Alistair's overall MMA career, and especially when you focus on the UFC part of it, this guy is so fucking skilled, and he obviously gets mistaken by a lot of people as just a striker, but he's so much more than that, bro. This guy is fucking amazing, and he's never really been outskilled by anybody, in my opinion. The only times he's lost is either he gassed or he got cracked on the chin and he just goes down. And if he had a little bit of a better chin, I mean, the guy would just be almost impossible to beat. His fucking kicks, his knees, bro, the way oh my God, if you get in a clinch with this motherfucker, you better have some strong fucking abs, because he's gonna brutalize you. His ground game is sick. You know, he's got a great submission game as well. So much experience. I mean, I watched an interview with him today, and I think he said that in total he's got like 84 fights. And I've been a fan of Overeem for a long time. Like I watched him win the K1 Grand Prix as well. Like, and he was just humongous, juice to the fucking gills back then. But he's just an incredibly diverse fighter, man. He's really a throwback type of mixed martial artist that just done it all. And he's from my home fucking country. I really, really hope that he wins, because then you just can't deny his position in the history books, man. I mean, he's won every fucking belt that's out there.
Yeah.
And
how old is he?
How old? I would estimate him around 34, 35. Let me just double check, actually. He's 36.
Nah, he's older than that.
He's older than 36?
He's 36 right now.
No, I just thought Chu was saying that you were wrong when you obviously looked that up on the internet. But, so who are you picking?
You know, I think it really depends on Stipe's game plan, you know. I think his best chance is to go for the knockout. I don't think his wrestling is good enough to take Alistair down. I don't think his stand-up is good enough to try and box with Alistair.
Yeah.
I think he's got to go for that chin. The guys that have beaten Alistair lately have taken a shitload of damage or just bum rushed him, you know? That's it. Like Rothwell, I think it was Rothwell, right? Rothwell just came forward and just knocked him out. And what was the other guy? Travis Brown took a shitload of punishment, survived it, and then kicked him in the chin. You know, like Stipe's, I think his best chance is to have like a Rothwell type of game plan where he just comes forward and just goes for that chin, man. If he's gonna if he's gonna be hesitant like he was against Verdum, because he was kind of on the back foot against Verdum. If he's gonna do that,
that's how he fights.
Yeah, but
that's his style.
I'm just saying, if he does that,
that's
Alistair,
why I'm concerned.
Fuck, man, he's not gonna survive that.
Stipe likes to play it a little bit cute. He's not a really come forward guy. He kind of responds to however his opponent is fighting. Because even in the Arlovsky fight, I don't think Stipe was the one that was initiating the aggression. I think he was just responding from Arlovsky's striking. So it's fascinating, man. And it's funny because Stipe, I mean, he reminds me of a guy who picked up MMA like in his mid-20s. You know, he really doesn't specialize in anything particularly well. And his team looks like a fucking, just a conglomerate of morons. I mean, you watch some of the embedded videos, they just look really inept and incompetent. So I think he's one of those guys that just builds off of natural talent. And I don't know, man, I think he might pay Alistair a little bit too much respect, and I could see Alistair clipping him. So
Stipe!
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Kimo, why should I give Overeem the time of day when clearly he's been on drugs for half of his career?
Who hasn't?
Because everyone else was. That's why.
Well, listen, you can't prove that. You can just look at Overeem and just say steroids.
Horse meat, man.
He looks like fucking Bane for the Batman comics. It doesn't even, like, when you look at him, it doesn't even make sense how those biceps grow. But one thing I always liked about Overeem, he used to have like these really cool documentaries on YouTube.
Yeah.
What were they called, Kimo?
They were just called The Ream. Yeah, they were called The Ream.
They were a fucking classic, man. And like the video editing, and it was really, to me, like one of the first fighters, like boxing or MMA, that had like this kind of like cool music videos and like a documentary, and like he's banging his latest fucking beautiful girlfriend and shit. And it was just sexy, and everything about it was great. That saying, you said, Kimo, that he's more than just a striker. Really, I mean, I don't really see his ground game like that. I know it's improved, but I don't really see his ground game like that. I think people can't take him down because he's so fucking big. But that said, if he was like, it reminds me of like Terry Norris. In boxing, he's got that, or dare I say it, Amir Khan. He's got that fucking off switch on his chin. And if he didn't have that, he might be unbeatable. But he does. And I'll tell you something, that's what makes him so exciting to fight, because you never know what's going to happen. He could knock a guy out, or he could get knocked out, he could get buzzed. It's drama and excitement every time he steps in the octagon. And, I'm looking forward to this fight. I don't know much about Stipe, but I know he's a wee bit more boring, he's a wee bit more technical than what I've seen. And, I'm not sure if it's going to be a good fight in that regard, because I think Overeem's going to have to press the action for it to be an exciting fight. But I'm picking Stipe.
By knockout?
Nah. I think it'll go out decision.
No way, man. These heavyweight fights don't go to decisions anymore, dude.
Yeah, dude, they're crazy.
I mean, especially when it's 5 rounds. No.
5 rounds?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's a championship fight, dude.
No way Overeem seeing that 5th round. Stipe will buy a knockout.
What round then?
4th.
Dude. Do you just realize what you just said from a logical standpoint? Okay, so UFC fights are always 3 rounds, like at the minimum, right? And the fact that you just predicted 3rd round knockout, you know what I mean?
What are you trying to say? Knock someone out in the 4th round?
It means that you changed Europe. You essentially contradicted yourself. Because when I asked you, how you see this fight taking place, you said it was going to go to decision, when UFC fights are always 3 rounds at the minimum. And then you said 3rd round knockout shortly afterwards.
Yeah, because Overeem's not got the stamina to get to. Yeah, okay,
well,
I know
he does.
No. Actually, you bring up a fair point. No, you bring up a fair point. It is a different contest that you get into when you're fighting a 5-round fight versus a 3-round fight. So
yeah, of course.
I see what's your point there. I'm noticing I'm saying contest a lot because Connor always says contest.
Contest.
You notice that, yeah? These contests. But anyways, is there anything else? Any other fights on the horizon that we should talk about?
I just want to mention quickly about Overeem. This guy, Chu, you should really look him up, man, because he has like fucking competed in submission grappling. He's submitted so many fucking guys as well back in the day when he was still skinny, man. He submitted Vitor, right?
Yeah, yep, and Pride, right?
He's a fucking beast, man. He's so diverse. You're really underestimating him, man, just because he's pretty good in stand-up. World class in stand-up, Like,
is he tapped out anyone in the UFC?
Not in the UFC, but he's... in the UFC, it's all been knockouts.
Or, him getting knocked out. Or him knocking someone out.
Yeah, you fucking troll.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's pretty much it regarding UFC 203.
Okay.
We've talked about this Anjos Ferguson. That's coming up in November 5th. Then we have... Oh, I just saw this today, man. Ricardo Lamas against BJ Penn.
Yeah.
15th of October in the Philippines.
Yeah,
UFC.
tough fight. Lamas is top 15, top 10?
Definitely top 10.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's at featherweight, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have too much to say about that fight.
Well, I have a little bit to
really
say about it, man. Penn was probably and is still probably my favorite fighter, actually, man. Penn in his prime was an absolute fucking savage. I mean, he was just amazing to watch. So fucking talented, man. So talented. I mean, one of the most talented guys ever. He was just a lazy ass, and he would never leave Hawaii to go train properly. And now he's joined, Greg Jackson's camp, and he's saying that it's revived his career, yada, yada, yada. But this is after too many wars. He's old now. The game has just passed him by. I don't really want to see this fight, to be honest. I just want to see him retire. But
yeah,
the original opponent was Dennis Seaver,
and
now they've switched suddenly to Ricardo Lamas. Lamas isn't that aggressive. He's not that much of an aggressive fighter. So maybe this is a good matchup for Penn, but it's really not something I want to see, to be honest. But I'll definitely watch because I'm a massive Penn fan. But one other fight that's coming up. So we have UFC 204, and I like this one. It's Bisping versus Henderson 2.
Yeah.
It's going to be UK, by the way, Manchester. Cam, you should go.
Yeah, Cam told me he's going to that fight. He already got tickets. He's going with Leon.
Cam's not even there. Cam's just pressed record and he's just left the room.
No, Cam's a massive UFC fan. For all the people listening in, but I don't know, man. I don't really give a fuck about this fight either. I know it's a really controversial topic in that it's a fight that you would see more in boxing than you would in the UFC. It's kind of a money grab fight. Henderson doesn't deserve the fight by any means. I think he's ranked, 13 or 14, because he's ranked 13 or 14. Prior to his last win against who did he fight last on the undercard of 199?
Hector
Lombard, against Lombard, which was an incredible knockout. But prior to that, I think he was on a 3-fight losing streak. And not only that, but I need to mention just how stacked the top 5 of that weight division is. You got guys like Romero, Jacare, who I think deserves it more than anyone. Obviously Rockhold and Weidman, who are just chopping at the bit. So, Henderson just jumped the line. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a fun fight.
Fucking Jacare, if the shit thing about Jacare is he's probably going to have a tougher fight than, Bisping. But Jacare would beat Henderson or Bisping, no problem in my opinion. So I don't mind Dan Henderson getting the fight because he knocked the champion out, and that's the only reason he's getting the fight. So he's a worthy challenger in my opinion, and in a way it's kind of like he's got emirate status. If George St. Pierre came back, he would automatically get a shot at the welterweight belt in my opinion. Skip to the front of the queue just for all the stuff he's done in the game. It may not be fair, but it's almost as if you get like a golden ticket for everything you've done in the game. And I think Dan Henderson is one of those guys where, if he gets a title shot, so what? He deserves it.
Dan Henderson is one of the true legends of the sport, and I think this fight only got made because of the fans, man. Like, if I look at message boards and forums and all this shit, after Bisping won the fight, everybody was calling for this fight. It's really funny because nobody gave a fuck about rankings anymore. They just wanted to see this rematch purely based on the tension and the excitement of the first fight and that violent fucking knockout, So I don't have an issue with it. Fuck it. It's a good fight. I'm not quite sure who to pick though, man.
Really?
Hendo is old. Bisping is very flawed. You got to go with Bisping, but
I think so.
I think Hendo could still pull it off, man. I imagine that if he does.
Yeah, he said he's gonna retire no matter what.
I don't know. He's just had so many fucking fights. What a legend.
Yeah, and I think
I can't remember how the first fight was going.
Oh, it was pretty.
Until the knockout, who was winning?
No, it was definitely Hendo who was winning because Bisping was just. He was kind of running, to be honest. He was on his back
scared.
Foot. Yeah, he was very.
That's
scared.
how he got knocked out. He got knocked out on his back foot.
Yeah, he was just circling into that fucking right hand all night, and then he just finally, boom, got caught.
And then Dan Henderson put it on his Twitter page.
No, that's his logo, bro.
Yeah, it's
that's his logo.
Fucking logo. That flying.
Oh my god.
Oh, what a violent punch that was.
That's his logo.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man.
Oh, fuck, man. I'm just waiting for Henderson's daughter to become legal, man. Because she's a dime piece.
Yeah, man. He's got a beautiful family. Don't say that.
I know. I'm kidding, man. Come on, bro. Hendo's a legend. And I do hope that he gets his belt, actually. Because he's a fucking badass motherfucker. He's put so much time in the game, and, man, it just shows you that power never leaves. Power is the last to leave.
Indeed. Boys, I think we're going to slowly start wrapping it up. Is there anything else in general?
Yeah. I think we should just talk about the sale of the UFC, and just leave it at that. I think it's... No, I just think it's fascinating, man. I've always been extremely interested and curious about the finances of these sports, and one thing that I've always wondered about the $4 billion acquisition by WME IMG was just, what it all means for the sport moving forward. And I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how fighters are starting to get paid a little bit more now that I think a lot more revenue is expected to come into the sport. I know there's a couple of unions that have been sprouting here and there. So that might be an issue moving forward. There might be some, strikes and whatnot from different labor groups. And yeah, man. And I know Fox's contract with the UFC is running out at the end of this year, and they're talking about $400 million annually, which is pretty fucking insane. In most other sports, athletes get about half of any kind of TV networks and TV contracts that you sign. So if you just look at it from that perspective, $200 million split among, the 600 athletes in the sport, there's a lot of money to be made for these guys. So, hopefully we get that, because I know we like to shit a lot in boxing for fighters pricing themselves out, but I do think there is a middle line. I think there's a middle ground that should be made. I think UFC fighters are getting a little bit underpaid. I'm not complaining about it at all, because we get the fights that we all want to see, but at the same time, hopefully they have a little bit more to invest in their future.
Yeah, man. Fighters, I mean, a little bit. They get kind of severely underpaid, depending on, where you are in the hierarchy of the organization. If you look at what, some of the openers, for example, of a pay-per-view get paid, I mean, it's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You get 20K, and how much do you fight a year? Twice, three times, maybe, and with all the expenses that you have, the traveling, the training partners, I mean, it's I don't know how they make juice. I really don't, but I don't know how things are going to change, man. I really don't know too much about this company, and I don't know what their plan is. I mean, it's obvious with Zuffa. The legacy they left behind is fucking incredible. But if you look at the way that they treated fighters, not too good in my opinion. Yeah, but then again, like you said, as a fan, I always got what I wanted out of them. I always got every fucking fight that I wanted. It wasn't until you start fantasizing about different weight classes going up against each other that sometimes things didn't happen, such as Anderson Silva versus GSP, which at one point was a huge discussion in the sport. But apart from that, they did a fucking terrific job, man. And if you see how much the sport has changed, it's incredible. And being sold for this much money now, and some things I don't like that happened over the years, like the Reebok deal, you know?
Oh.
It might be a small thing, like the gear and the way the fighters
that's a huge thing.
Well, for me as a fan,
thing.
you know, for me as a fan, it's a small thing, but for the fighters, it was huge.
Yeah.
You know? But for me, it only impacts me in that I see their gear on TV. That's it. You know, that's the only way it impacts me.
But it also does indirectly impact yourself as well, right? I mean, I think if Reebok wasn't in play, maybe Benson Henderson and Roy McDonald don't leave the UFC. You know, I know Hendo is probably not an elite fighter anymore, but I certainly would have liked to see Roy stick it out with the UFC. But, you know, a big emphasis on his reason for leaving was just the lack of money that he got from his sponsorships and just kind of like the lack of, I think, of mobility and attaining more funds and resources now that you have to wear Reebok gear. So, and that's a huge clause. It's a perfect segue for GSP and the bitter kind of back and forth that he's had with Dana White. It's the Reebok thing, you know. GSP gets a lot of money from Under Armour to fight, and in the contract that he had signed earlier in his career, and the one that still should be active, you know, he still gets paid under that previous contract, which allows him to wear a different number of sponsorships, and for him to get paid rightfully so from those sponsorships. But now that they operate under the Reebok contract, you know, he's entirely stripped away from that, and I think he's giving just a flat fee of about $100,000 to $150,000 just to wear that Reebok gear, which is a fucking joke. So
yeah,
it's a mess, man. But those are, I think, some of the aches and some of the pains that you go through as you legitimize yourself as a company. I just think Reebok was the absolute worst company to do it with. I mean, just their gear looks atrocious, and I don't know. It's unfortunate.
I mean, they did a fucking terrible job. I mean, they misspelled fighters' names on the jerseys. They all looked the same. There was like no individual design, and they promised all of that shit going in. Yeah. You know, they promised, we're gonna work closely with the fighters. Everybody's gonna have their individual style. They literally did a copy fucking paste of one terrible looking fucking jersey, and just copied it across for every fighter, and it's just disgraceful, to be honest, the way it was handled. I mean, and the sad thing is, it hasn't really improved.
No.
When did it start? Yeah. This was like a year ago, right?
I think a little bit more, like a year and a half.
I mean, who the fuck is in charge of this? Did they put some stupid interns, you know, and, oh, you're the UFC guys, you know, and put them in a corner in an office somewhere and be like, you take care of that bullshit? I mean, I don't fucking get it. It's really fucking bad, and you have such an opportunity to fucking make some big cash with this, you know, like brands like Affliction made a shitload of money through MMA, you know.
I was gonna say, Affliction.
Tap Out, man, Tap Out are fucking millionaires for this shit.
Hell yeah.
Like, the throne.
If you're a douchebag in America, you're wearing Tap Out.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Bro,
you wanna bang? You wanna bang?
Yeah, let me bang, bro.
Let me bang, bro. Dude, we need to have D-Throne as the official UFC sponsor. Make everyone wear D-Throne Conor McGregor gear.
Stay ready, yeah?
Fucking have Alistair Overeem and Stipe wear Conor McGregor walkout gear.
The gang is ruthless.
But honestly, Reebok could take any decent UFC fan, offer them a job, and make them work together with their designers, and they would get better shit than what they're doing now. I mean, it's just incredible. Baffling. Absolutely baffling. I don't understand it, but yeah. Apart from that, man, Zuffa has done a pretty goddamn good job over the years.
When I look at the Reebok T-shirts, it's almost as if it's like too rigid, too computerized, too... You know, it's fucking horrible, man.
Too stiff,
yeah. You need to get Ido Poro fucking designing those.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man.
The blueprint was there, man. There've been some pretty decent, you know, designs over the years, even though they're a bit douchebaggery type of designs. But fuck, man. All you got to do is just step in, take over, and, you know, put a fucking skull and flames on it, and that shit was sell. You know, like that's how Tap Out did it. You know,
they've never ever released anything worth wearing ever.
Yeah, but I still have to admit that I still bought a couple of Conor McGregor t-shirts.
Yeah, shame on you for that, man.
I still love that guy so much.
You should have bought the Dethrone ones, man.
They were sold out, bro.
Yeah, but they have new ones. Yeah?
I did buy Conor's those tights that he wore. You know, the spandex, the 5 inches. So I wear that every now and then when I go to the gym. But yeah, man, that's all I got for myself, dude. But I guess just for final thoughts, if I can go on, man, the thing about this sport is that it's always in my ear. You know, I mentioned it so many times on the coalition that it's just the narrative, the consistency of the narrative. And to me, nothing is a better example of that than when I was at the International Fight Week in Vegas in July for UFC 200, just the back-to-back cards and just the community that the UFC has developed, and it's a fucking shame, man. Like, if you're somehow involved in boxing from a financial standpoint, you must be so disappointed in the market that you've released, in my opinion, because I do think there is a large carryover, man, and I think the lack of efficiencies in boxing has really created this gap for UFC to take over, and I think it's only been widening these past couple of years. And you know, you go on ESPN, on SportsCenter, you go on Fox. I mean, all they talk about is UFC, and you know, you don't get any play for boxing anymore. So I think boxing has really stuck itself in a large hole. And I know people have mentioned that, you know, boxing has been dead for a while. And even though I do agree with that, I think the bigger problem is that UFC has created such an advantage right now here in the States and just drawing power and marketing that it's just second fiddle nowadays, man. And honestly, I can see in 5 to 10 years, like UFC being like a 4th to 5th major sport here in the States. So I'm just excited about its development and its progression.
So true. True, you got any final thoughts?
Nah, great to be on. I hope to be on next time.
The Mystic Man, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and Chu, I just wanted to relay. So we're trying to draw off the great Ariel Helwani, who's probably the best MMA journalist, and me and Kimo just made the decision that I'll be Ariel Helwani, Kimo will be Sean Al-Shadi, and you can be Mark Raimondi. Just go on Google and look up Mark Raimondi, and I think you'll see an exact replica of what you look like in 5 years. So that's all I gotta say.
I want to add a little bit to what you just said, Lim, because you really told that perfectly. And you know what the beautiful thing is about, especially the UFC specifically, is that storyline, and there's always a narrative, and there's always a natural flow between fights. You know, it's funny when you look at UFC fans, they tend to argue about who should get the fucking title shot. You know, whereas boxing fans tend to argue about who got the fucking contract, or, you know.
Yeah, can you imagine UFC fans?
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's disrespectful. 1.5 million? Oh, that's not enough. We need at least exactly. 2.5. 1.5 is disrespectful. Please,
I mean, you really don't have these type of discussions, you know. It's more people saying, like, oh my God, you know, Wonder Boy should get the title shot because he won 5 in a row. Oh no, Maya should get it because he's been killing it. You know, like, It's like you as a fan, you assume that every top 5 fighter is getting it, or one of them is getting it. You know, and it's a battle between those top 5 guys who's going to get the title shot, and whoever wins then is going to face the next guy, and whoever wins then is going to face the guy after that. Right. It's just it's such a build up all the time, right? And then when somebody beats somebody else, you know, when Stipe wins the title, you think all of a sudden, oh, we're gonna get Stipe versus Overeem, you know, like, and if Overeem wins, oh, what are we gonna get then? You never have to question whether the top guys are gonna fight each other, and that is just it's such a fucking relief. You know? Like, the worst thing we have to worry about is probably a guy pissing hot and getting pulled off a card. You know, that's probably one of the worst things about MMA, and the injuries. But apart from that, man, it's just fucking great. I'm
And
looking at the. Yeah.
I'm gonna get a lot of slack for this, dude. But if you go to a UFC event and you go to a boxing event, it's kind of night and day in terms of. I mean, I will admit the UFC events are a little bit kind of hillbilly-ish. There are I think a lot of rednecks and a lot of stupid, arrogant Donald Trump supporters there. But it's a lively event, man. It's just so much fun, dude. And there's a lot of fine-ass looking white girls, which is definitely a plus for me. But it's just a more lively atmosphere. And like you mentioned, when someone wins a fight, the immediate discussion is that guy is going to fight either this guy or that guy. Whereas, in boxing, I mean, we went to the Porter Thurman fight together about 3 months ago, and we still have no idea who either guy is fighting. So,
Tell
what the
me
fuck?
about it.
What the fuck, bro?
Yep. Exactly, man. And I think that's the moral of the story. So we're just gonna keep enjoying these fucking fights. This weekend's gonna be good as well. Man. Let's wrap it up. This has been the comeback of the Mystic Man, and man, let's do another one soon. Lim. It's been good, man.
All right, man. Surprise, surprise, motherfucker. The king is back, yeah.
We out. Peace.